And we are live. Welcome, everybody, to NFL Live Before Lock, Sunday, October 26th. I am Josh Engelman, and we're here to build some lineups for the next 45 minutes. DraftKings, FanDuel, we're going to go over main sims, single lineup sims. We're going to build through everything we can. Chat, you better be ready. You better have your suggestions, because we're going to be able to build some stuff for you guys. First and foremost, I'm Josh Engelman. Follow me on Twitter at Josh Engelman. Follow me on Tails at Josh Engelman as well. I might be more on the NBA streets, but I'm in the sim streets more than anything. We got a big day ahead of us. We're not going anywhere. This stream is going to be going live all the way until 1 p.m. We're going to be here that long. 3 hours and 45 minutes to cover everything we've got. I'm going to be here till 10 o'clock. Then at 10, you get the goods. Loughy and Ben are going to break down every single game on this slate. They're going to go step by step through it all. There's no place you would rather be for DFS coverage on a Sunday afternoon, or pre-afternoon, I guess. And then we've got Live Before Lock to close out the week. I believe it's Greg and Spags. No Eric this weekend. Greg fresh out of jail, I guess. He's got... Look, if you need inside info, make sure you're watching Greg Ehrenberg on his stretch up until lock. But for real, guys, good morning. It's good to see all of you. Chat, what's going on? What's going on? I'm excited to talk about this. I've built some lineups out already. Just dropped the bonus perfect lineup over on Tails. I think it's very interesting today on the NFL side. And part of the reason for that is what I see at the top of the sims. So I ran this just before we got started. And I find the stacking interesting. Baltimore, Jets, Philly, Colts, Bengals, Bucks, Pats. That's a lot of different starters, or a lot of different QBs and running stacks here in that top 10 to 15 lineups. Baltimore, Jets, Philly, Indy, Bengals, Bucks, Pats. I mean, that's 7 teams in the top 2, 4, 6, 8. In 10. 7 out of the top 10 have a different quarterback and a different primary stack. That makes it fun to play slates like this. We don't have this. We've got some breakaway ownership, and we could talk about that for a second here. If I favorite the top 150 lineups and we just pop over to the exposures. Let me go ahead and make this a little bit bigger on the screen for you guys. So as we look at this here, Bijan, close to 40% owned. Jamar Chase in that 35% range. And then you got this crop of 30%ers, Devonta Smith, Jonathan Taylor, Dalton Schultz. We've got a lot of heavy chalk there, but after that, we fall under that 20% mark pretty easily. And at that point in time, you're not really stressing about it. So it's figuring out what's going on in these top few guys. I think it's really easy to rotate around them. Look at the sim results that we have right now. Over Bijan, over Chase, over Smith, over Taylor, over Schultz, neutral with Rashad White, over Derrick Henry, neutral Chris Olave. Like, we're not getting away from this, and we're still finding places to be unique. And I think that opens us up for some very interesting builds. And I think we should get into those builds right now. I just want to ask you guys first. Chat, you're here. What stack do we start with? Where do you want to go? I'm going to give you guys the floor. Give me the quarterback we're starting this with. To talk about ownership for a second. Bo Nix, currently projected as the highest owned quarterback. Daniel Jones is next. Jalen Hurts, Joe Flacco, Baker Mayfield. Here come the answers. Nix, Dak, May, Cousins. Nix, Baker, Fields. Nix. Nix has died out now. It was a lot of Knicks early. Cousins, Fields, Caleb, Fields. That's the same Fields, unfortunately. Bears and Caleb. Okay, we got a couple that we're going to hit here. Let's start it with Bo Nix. And don't forget, we're going to hop over to the FanDuel side as well. We still got 40 minutes, folks. Buckle up, be ready. Lots to talk about. Let's start with Bo Nix. And what I also want to do here is pull up, I've got the boom bust tool for the NFL pulled up, and I'm going to pull up one other tool that we have, which is going to be the stacks tool. From a stack perspective, since we're going to Bo Nix, and you guys can see where we have the ownership. Nix is at the top of this list, 7% top stack odds, 12.5% ownership to Nix, 7.5% value as well. But we can bring the salary down here, and I think that's going to be helpful. Let's strategize what we want to do with Nix first. I think that's an easier way to look at this. So I've got the boom bust tool pulled up. I'm going to filter straight to Denver. And we'll take a look at this, because while Bo Nix is getting love, that's 13% ownership to Bo Nix. It's not coming from anywhere else on this team. Cortland Sutton's 11. Evan Ingram's 5. If we get to a 2-person Denver stack here, it's very unique, and we're going to be able to eat a lot of ownership everywhere else. So if we're going to go to Nix, I think it's very safe to just take the 2 best options. Given where the ownership stands right now, it's not like we're getting this stack with your 30+% owned Jamar Chase types. We can get Sutton at 11 easy. Nothing crazy there. We can get Evan Ingram at 5% ownership. I think it's pretty obvious we would want to bring back something from the Dallas side. So let's think about what we want that to be. If we're talking about it from a value perspective, Javonte Williams makes the most sense. He's the highest point per dollar play for Dallas right now. CeeDee Lamb is also close. Another $1,000 here. But Bo Nix, Cortland Sutton, Evan Ingram, relatively cheap. I'm going to take that extra $1,000 and make it be CeeDee Lamb. So 2-man Denver stack. We've got one side with a bring back with CeeDee Lamb. We've got $25,900 left. I'm not going to put any randomness on it. Let's see what this lineup looks like to start. I'm going to click complete this lineup to fill it out. Let's see where we end up. Bijan goes in. I think we can support that ownership. Devontae Smith goes in. We can support that ownership. Becomes a 2 tight end lineup. I know you can't. Yeah, you guys can see Dalton Schultz's name there. It's Evan Ingram. It's the Browns D as well. I'll think about the visual here moving forward. And then we get Chase Brown in at the running back spot, 5,400. We spend the full salary. Okay. 141.3 projection, 155 ownership. For reference, if we just take a look here. Why did that pull my lineup in there? That's weird. Doesn't matter. Let's test it. Here we go. First single lineup sim for the day. Doesn't that get you guys excited? I love using this tool. It's so much fun to build lineups in this. What are we going to get here? 71 sim ROI. I like it. I like it. 71% sim ROI, 0.3% chance to win, 33% cash rate. I think we can improve this lineup. I really do. My guess is that Chase Brown is not the most efficient piece here, but we're going to find out. So I'm going to take Chase Brown out. Nope, great value there. That's not going to be the one. Just felt like he wasn't going to be the best point per dollar option, but I should have looked at that a little bit closer. We can get off of Dalton Schultz here, right? And give up that ownership and go, no, we can't. Look at the gap in projection here. There's a 4.9 point gap between Dalton Schultz and the second best tight end that we can slot into that spot. Can't go that way. Can't go that way. So is it a Bijan Devontae Smith swap? Because those things are not tied to each other. Einsteinium, I see it. I see Einsteinium said it. Get off Devonta Smith. I agree. I think that's the move here. So how do we do that? That's the question. Let's think about the projection we could take on here. Devonta Smith has the 4th highest wide receiver projection. He's obviously an exceptional value option. How can we get close to that without the same amount of ownership? Chris Olave stands out. We give up 2 fantasy points. We cut the ownership in half. Or we go to Igbuka and cut it by 10%. If we go to Igbuka, what can we do at running back? We go Igbuka Saquon? Am I seeing that right? Okay, so we turn Devonta Smith and Bijan into Igbuka and Barkley. I don't know if we're giving up too much projection here, but we cut a lot of ownership. Yeah, we cut too much projection there, unfortunately. That Bijan Devonta Smith combo is the better combo. You could also move Ingram to tight end and see the flex instead of Schultz. We could do that as well. Let's hit a different lineup, because that first one was 70% sim ROI. I like that. I'm going to scroll back up and see what you guys were hitting the most there and grab our second lineup here. It felt like that was a Bears move. So let's take a look at Chicago. I've still got the top stacks tool here. 2% ownership coming into Caleb Williams. Not much. Top stack odds, though, 3.5%. So whatever we get here from Chicago, the rest of this lineup needs to just be jammed to the gills with the best plays. So Caleb Williams goes in. And then let's think about how we want to fill this stack out. I mean, there's no reason to not get Rome. And then I'm going to go Swift. I'm going to go quarterback, running back, wide receiver. That's about as unique as we're going to be here. And I don't think it's going to matter at all what shows up in the rest of this lineup if the value is good enough. So if we look at Baltimore, let's just take Zay Flowers right away. 2-man Bears, Zay Flowers on the bring back. Optimal plays around these guys. It's going to look very similar. We get Rashad White. We get Devonta Smith again. We get Schultz again. Jets D pops in here. 138 projection, 146 ownership. We'll see here. Sean Preston says Cousins makes room for the big 3 running backs. We could take a look. 8.6% sim ROI. Yeah, I think it's very easy to try to improve this lineup. We're just taking on so little ownership with Caleb and Rome. Maybe it's not DeAndre Swift. Maybe it's a second pass catcher. Does that make more sense on the Chicago side? Let's go. We can punt. Let's get Loveland. Now, this is extra special, different, and probably too different. Bijan, White, Chase, Schultz, Broncos D. We increased the projection quite a bit here. 140 now, up to 148 in ownership. That's a big improvement. That's a really big improvement. Punting that tight end pairing with Caleb Williams bumps us up to the 58% sim ROI range. Now, this isn't great in terms of likelihood of cashing because we've got a 2% owned Caleb Williams, a 2% defense, a 4% Loveland, a 5% Rome. Not ideal. But as a GPP lineup, this looks pretty damn good. Charlie Tim says, why Flowers? Just to come in as a bring back on the opposite side of that Chicago stack. Just do Fields for a 150 ROI? I mean, we can put that together. Let's do it. You know what? We're going to move to FanDuel for one of these. because we haven't touched on FanDuel yet. 9:30, we got about a half hour left to go. I want to make sure that we hit some of these FanDuel lineups. Before we do that, I got to talk to you about something that's near and dear to my heart, but it does help you out if you play NFL DFS. It's the beginning of the NBA season. We wanted to run a promo for you guys, and this one's active. The link is in the description of this video. 20% off using the promo code OKC. But this is not just for the NBA. It can be if you want it to be. If you want just the NBA package, pick the NBA package. You get it for 20% off for a month. But if you play more than one DFS sport, you can use this on our all-access monthly package. That covers the NBA. That covers everything we have for the NFL. All the sim tools that we're looking at right now. Projections and ownership. Covers MMA. Tough one yesterday with the no contest in the main event. Golf. NASCAR. We've got projections and ownership for the NHL. If you want to get in, this code's going to go away soon. We don't do a lot of discounts on our all-access package. So if you're playing and you're here a lot, there's no reason you should skip out on this one. Promo code OKC, link in the description. Come on in, folks. Come on in. All right. FanDuel lineups. I'm going to go back to the stacks tool. We're going to check out the FanDuel stack side. We're going to see if we can find any leverage here. Highest owned quarterbacks, looking like Knicks. We're going Indy and Denver as the only ones with quarterbacks north of 10%. Buffalo and Baltimore both sitting at 9. Very low top stack odds for Baltimore. Obviously, you get a bit more rushing on that end. I kind of like going to like Derrick Henry in that scenario more than anything else. Where's the leverage? This is where we want to be. Tampa, 7%, 11% top stack. These are going to be more expensive. Philly or Cincy. Those are our three choices right now. Chat, let me know. This is FanDuel. Do you want to build the Bucks, the Eagles, or the Bengals? Because I think those are the three most underrepresented stacks that we have on the FanDuel side. Those are the ones that have a bit of positive leverage. We're paying up a little bit more to be contrarian. These average salaries are a little bit higher here. They're not the best value in the world, but not terrible value. I think it's Philly. All right, Dan Nugent says Bucks. Bucks, Bengals, Eagles. Bucks, Eagles, Bucks. Bucks, Bengals. All right, you got, I mean, I might as well have ran a poll here, and it would have been 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. I think it's more Bengals, so we're going to go Bengals. Bengals, Jets, the game everybody wants to watch. Welcome to the stack, Joe Flacco, in the year 2025. Yes, that is what's happening here today. If we're going to go to Flacco, we're obviously going to go to Jamar Chase. I'm going to sneeze. Invigorating. Absolutely invigorating. All right, Flacco in, Chase in. Do we want Noah Fant at no ownership or T. Higgins at essentially no ownership, but also expensive? Or Chase Brown at no ownership? Let's go Hig. Now, bringing a Jet back typically feels awful, but can we get Breece Hall in there? Flacco, Chase, Higgins, Breece Hall. Optimal lineup around these guys. Brings in Saquon at 8,100, 28% owned. That's fine. Remember, Flacco, not all that owned. Higgins, not all that owned. Breece Hall, not all that owned. So we can take on Barkley ownership. We take on an 18% owned Derrick Henry. We get a double Houston stack. Jalen Noel and Dalton Schultz. Both of those guys pulling a little bit of ownership. I don't like the one-off Saints defense, but I'm never going to give a shit about defense. So 124.5 projection, 132 ownership. What does this look like on the FanDuel side? Oh, well, way to go, chat. Pat yourselves on the back. There's 1,200 plus of you watching on YouTube. Another couple hundred watching on X. You guys hit the 113 sim ROI, 0.4% chance to win, 37 cash rate. Flacco, Barkley, Henry, Chase, Higgins, Noel, Schultz, Breece Hall, and the Saints D. And I legitimately think we could probably make that lineup better. I bet we can swap out one of Henry or Barkley and improve this lineup. As weird as that sounds. I guess Derrick Henry and Achane would be basically the same play. And then Rachaad White would not work in this lineup. So that really isn't too bad there with Henry. Barkley's going to be the same situation, but is it more interesting if it's Achane over Barkley? Can I do anything with that extra $200? Does that change Saints D? It doesn't. Could it? No. I don't think there's anything I could do with that extra $200 to improve this lineup. I assume Jalen Noel is just the miles best. Yeah, not even close. I don't think $200 is going to change Dalton Schultz. Yeah, maybe we can't. I think that lineup's just going to be what it is. But I like it. I like it. Now, we had a lot of votes there between those three teams. Between the Bengals, between the Eagles, between the Bucks. I want to see the Eagles as well. Eagles, Giants. Let's get Hurts. Now, this is where it gets interesting because we're getting a lot of ownership from the Eagles. Barkley's close to 30. Devonta Smith is 30. Just leaving one of those guys out of this stack, I think it makes a lot of sense. I'm going to leave Smith and not Barkley because I think that's the most unique combination here. And I'm going to add Dallas Goedert. So Hurts, Barkley, Goddard. And then let's go to Scatabo. It's too fun. It's too fun. That fills out our Eagles Giants stack. And now when we go the full bore, Jonathan Taylor comes in. It actually added Devonta Smith, so I'm going to handle that on my own. Let's lock Hurts, Barkley, Goddard, and Scatabo. And I'm going to clear this and try to find an alternative to Devonta Smith so he doesn't show up. So let's think about wide receivers. I know he's going to be at the top of the value list. Who can we... I'm going to go Igbuka instead and hope that it doesn't bring the rest of this. Still fits him in. Let's lock Igbuka. We'll take everybody else out. I'm going to add another wide receiver by choice. If we're going to go Igbuka, I might as well go Chris Olave and get a little bit of correlation in that Tampa and New Orleans game, which I think makes sense. Now we don't get it. No, we still get Devonta Smith. I can't get rid of this guy. Let's add some randomness. Does randomness fix it? It does. Nice. All right, a little bit of randomness and we got it. Hurts, Barkley, Derrick Henry, Igbuka, Olave, Jalen Noel, Goddard, Scatabo, Jets D, $100 left. Based on what I see on the projection here, I think this is going to be awful, like negative 30. Oh, positive 20. Very wrong. Very wrong. That's not too bad. Oh, friend of the program and host up next. Dave Lockern popping into the back end of this one. You guys can't see him, but I can see him. He's going to be here in 20 minutes with Ben Raza, breaking down every single one of these games. If you're not watching this show, if you're like, 10 o'clock, I got to go watch ESPN's coverage, you're out of your mind. This is the only place to be for DFS coverage. This is the only place to be where you can build the Eagles lineup, and it actually looks decent because it's got Philadelphia players in it. Yeah, I may be a little bit harsh there with those comments because I know Mr. Dave Locker can hear me say it, talk a bunch of smack about his birds. Let's head back to the DraftKings side. And what I want to do now is just run a sim. Because if you see in the top right-hand corner of the screen, I know it's going to be tiny. I need you guys to trust me. Ownership last updated, 854. I want to see where we're at on a fresh sim. So we're going to do a 5,000 pool. We're going to run it for the marquee. I'm not going to make any changes to stacks. We're just going to generate some lineups, see what's at the top. Dave is the new offensive coordinator for the Eagles practice squad. It'd be fun. Be a fun job. No one talks more shit on the Eagles than you do. That's probably true too. Steve Riddler, single entry locks. In the NFL, I have a hard time saying that they ever exist. There are situations where guys end up getting like real disproportionate salaries as backups. Those are probably the closer times. Technically speaking, I'd say that there's nobody, but you're likely using some combination of Bijan Robinson, Jamar Chase, Jonathan Taylor, Devonta Smith, and Dalton Schultz. You're probably ending up with like 3 of those dudes no matter what you do. What 3 they are, you can kind of go in any direction. Probably get 4 of them with no problem. You know, if your quarterback's going to be like 5% owned, you know, you bring his tight end along for the ride at 5 and your defense isn't anything special, you could pretty much eat all 5 of those top guys and it's not going to make a difference. Number 1 lineup in the Sim ROI coming out of this most updated run of Sims, Baltimore stack, Tyler Huntley season. There are times when I look at this data and think, did the NFL merge with another league? Like, is this how it felt when the NBA and the ABA came together? It's like Tyler Huntley. Like, how many times can these guys continue to not be any good and just continue to get their jobs? It's crazy. There are so many awful I don't feel like it was like this when I was 15. I don't feel like the guys sucked in the same way, but who knows? Top 4 lineups. Baltimore, 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 Baltimore. Because they spit hot fire, I guess. Cincy pops up here. Jets, Philly again. Houston. Interesting. I don't feel like we said a single word about Houston outside of Schultz. If I set this stack to contain Houston, do we get a lot more of decent Houston stacks? We kind of do. Stroud, Bijan, Achane, Lamb, Devonta Smith, Noel, Schultz, Derrick Henry, Jets. That's a strong lineup at the top. It appears to be very easy to get to Houston. Let me take a look at this top stacks tool on the DraftKings side. Mohammed Ba says, I love Houston today. I think we might be building a Houston stack here. 4.5% ownership coming to Houston in the top stacks tool. Now, their top stack odds are a little bit lower. But from a top stack rating, they're 4th. Mohammed, I think it's time for us to build a Houston lineup. I think this is going to be a lineup that I might hold on to after this show, based on what I just saw on the sim results. So Houston, San Francisco. Let's get Stroud in. 4.5% owned. So let's figure out what we want to pair him with. Now, based on that ownership, it's so like obviously Dalton Schultz is just going to be in this lineup. Stroud's already not all that owned. That helps. And I think if we add one more piece here, because really, like if Dalton Schultz scores a touchdown, cool. Like we're going to be fine there given his ownership. But can we do anything else with Houston? Is there another piece we want? Probably Jalen Noel, and we just have infinite money to go around for the rest of this lineup. I mean, it's just going to be jam-packed full of expensive, high, chalky dudes. Let's do it. Let's just get Noel in there at wideout. Is there a piece of San Francisco we want? Because like we could easily, I mean, obviously we're putting Christian McCaffrey in. We have 5,100 for Stroud, 3,500 for Noel, 3,300 for Dalton Schultz. We clearly have to put McCaffrey in this lineup. And that's not going to be the end of expensive, high-owned guys. Bijan, 40% owned, in. Jamar Chase, 35, in. Devontae Smith, in. We're eating a lot of ownership, but we're different enough with the Texans that I don't think it's going to matter. 145 projection, 178 ownership. That's like 25 percentage points higher than what we were looking at before. I think it's going to be okay, though. Let's look at it. Okay, 48%. Where can we make this lineup better? I think it's pretty clearly one of those chalky guys gotta go. It's either Bijan, Chase, Smith. One of those three dudes can't be in this lineup for us to get this kind of sim ROI. So chat, you guys are here. Let me know. Who do you want to take out? Bijan Robinson, Jamar Chase, or Devontae Smith? Who do you guys like the least? Ultimate Fight Show. How about a FanDuel lineup? You are 15 minutes late, brother. Probably get back to it, but we have already done that. All right, drop Chase. Smith, 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 Chase, Smith, Smith, Chase, Smith. It's Smith. Devontae Smith out. Sorry, Loughy. Nobody likes your team. Who do we replace him with? CeeDee Lamb stands out immediately. $300 cheaper. Still a good value. 1/3 the ownership. So if we get CeeDee Lamb in there, now we need to find $1,800. We might not be able to do that. I think that would require two of those guys coming out. So if we could go to just the best thing possible at wideout, it is Devontae Smith. The next guy down is Chris Olave. We do have some synergy with Cade Otton, but I feel like we've used Olave a little bit too much here. Diggs. I think we give up too much projection here with Diggs, but let's look at it. Take out Chase for Higgins. Okay. Higgins, swap Chase for Higgins and then fill with something else maybe? Up to 58% by just making that swap from Smith to Diggs. 35% cash rate, 58 here. But I like where you're going with that. If I take out Chase and swap him in for Higgins, I think there could be something there. Or does that just give me Chase and Higgins? It does. I'm not so sure I hate that, though. Houston, 2-man stack. Chase and Higgins and the McCaffrey bring back. Let's see what that looks like. Can you take Chase and Smith out and do Ibuka and Higgins? Okay. 44. Ibuka Higgins gives us 1,500 left. Which I assume allows us to upgrade defense. Yeah, that takes us to the Colts. 500 on the table. Let's see what we have here. Stroud, Noel, Schultz, bring back McCaffrey, Bijan. Ooh, 10%. Yuck. That wasn't it, guys. That wasn't it. Jorge, you want JT instead of CMC? I like the CMC bring back synergy on the opposite side of this Houston one, though. That's sort of the problem there. There's something in this lineup. I just don't know what it is. What if it's not Bijan? What if it's the opposite side of that game and it's Achane? What optimizes here now? Clear, complete. Chase, Smith, Warren, Saints. We'll look at this. And then we got to talk a little bit about tails. 8. I knew it. Bijan to Achane unlocks this lineup at 84%. We can keep Smith. We can keep Chase. But now we get here. Honestly, I think we can fix this one now. If Chase comes out and CeeDee Lamb goes in, I think this could be better because of the ownership, but we might have gave up too much projection. Yeah, a little bit too much projection. I did post a lineup to tails earlier. Are you guys familiar? Oddshopper.com. Top of the link. See the tails expert picks feed? You guys want to be there. It's totally free. You don't have to spend a cent here. Ben's already posting stuff. I see one here. Derrick Henry over 86.5 rushing yards. It's so simple. If you like that bet, if you like what Ben has to say, just click the tail button. It's going to pop up the line and all of the available odds for you. It makes it as easy as possible to back everybody else here. Greg, Eric, Loughy's going to show up here at some point in time as well. I posted a bonus perfect lineup earlier today. You guys can see that if you're interested. I went to the Bucks. We haven't built a Bucks thing here. But if you're looking for stuff for tails, sports betting, pick 'em. I'm posting a bunch of NBA DFS stuff. Costs you nothing. Follow everybody involved here. Find the people that you want, because you can search here for bets. Maybe you're a soccer guy. Maybe you're an MMA guy. Maybe you're just a football guy. You can search through all of this and get exactly what you're looking for. Follow the people that you're most interested in. But it's here, and it doesn't get any easier. RAI mapping is sick. You have a parlay here? It's right here. Click the tail button right in front of you. You want hockey plays from Jake? He's been crushing it to start the season. It's all here. One button click away. No cost whatsoever. If you find somebody you like and they do have a package, you can subscribe to them. But if you want to just be on the free picks page, I highly recommend it. A couple minutes left to build these lineups, folks, before we get out of here. Turn this one over to Loughy and Ben. This is the final one, guys. Ultimate says it. Tails is the best there is. The best there was and the best there ever will be. It might as well be Bret Hart. It might as well be Bret Hart. Where can we go for the final lineup build? How can we get super weird? What's the weirdest we can get today to try to win a lineup? I'm going to look at this QB list, and we're going to find out. We got a lot of this out of the gate, and we didn't do it. Jackson Dart, come on down. We're building against the birds here. This is the only way that we could do this to finish it off. Let's get the Dart. Wandale has to be there. I'm going Scatabo as well. This feels like a situation where I don't have to get to Devontae Smith, which would be nice. So let's get Barkley, and let's see where we stand. Dart, Scatabo, Wandale, Saquon. Devontae Smith goes in because we're not surprised. The dude's just too good of a value. He naturally shows up without using any randomness, which is what we're about to do so that Devontae Smith stops showing up in everything that we do. Clear the line. Let's try 5. That's not the one. 5. Not the one. 10 appears to be a chance that might get us somewhere we want to be. Certainly not 10. We're good. We got him out of there, finally. Couple spins of the wheel here. Bijan goes in. Chris Olave goes in. Loughy's boy, Jalen Noel. I've heard Loughy say Jalen Noel's name like 1,000 times this week. I didn't know he was a football player. I thought he used to be the point guard for the Timberwolves. Schultz goes in. Patriots D, 134.5 projection, 127 ownership. It's certainly not owned, but I don't think it's projected enough. Egads, negative 24. What a pile of turds for Jackson Dart. Makes me kind of happy. I really don't like the Giants. As a Commanders fan, both of these teams suck. I hope they tie today. That would be way more enjoyable for me. I should bet it just to be interested in it. Let's see what we got here. Jason Running says the problem is Smith doesn't show up when Brown is out. Makes for a good fade then, I would say. Do we have to get Smith in this lineup? Is that the way that we have to do this to make it be powerful? Bijan, Smith, Rashid Shaheed, Jets D. I actually think this one might get us into the green. The key to it all in this Jackson Dart stack might be Devontae Smith. Nope, it isn't. Here's the moral of the story here, folks. I don't think the Jackson Dart Giants stack is going to be the path to success today. If it is, clip this and tag me on Twitter and let me know how stupid I am. But I'm not seeing it in the Sims right now, guys. I know we started off with a couple Jackson Dart charts, a couple Jackson Dart shouts. It doesn't appear to be playing out. For those that care, I think you guys might be a little interested in this one. This is just the optimal for right now. It'll give you a good idea of where this ownership is coming in. Huntley, Jonathan Taylor, Bijan, Chase Smith-Noel, Schultz, Goddard, Saints D. That is the optimal that shows up. 201 total ownership. Remember, when we were building these lineups out, we were shooting for something in like the 150 range. That's how heavy some of this ownership is. So when you look at a lineup like this, your goal is to basically turn two of those 30% guys into fives. And however you think you can do that is going to help you out tremendously. Like in this case, you probably want to get Smith out of there for some Ravens wide receiver that's pulling a lot less ownership. So that naturally just becomes Flowers. And then you probably want to get one of the running backs out. This feels like another spot where you take out Bijan and replace with Achane at a lower ownership number. That leaves us $2,100 to upgrade what started as an optimal lineup. I'm going to keep Schultz and Noel because I think that makes some sense. I'm going to keep Achane. What does that clean up to now that we have a little bit of stacking tied into it? Bijan, Chase, Derrick Henry. So we get another Baltimore piece, Eagles D. We cut the ownership by 25%, but we still maintained a decent chunk of projection. This is the sort of way that I like to start lineups. I should just shut up, turn off my camera, get the hell out of here, make these guys start right now. 141 Sim ROI, 0.4% chance to win, 46% cash rate. This is what you want to do. Start with the best and make incremental changes to try to bring down your ownership without really affecting your fantasy points as much. And that's what we did here now. We've got 3 different Baltimore pieces. We've got some Houston stacking. I like this lineup quite a bit. I think we just walked out with the best possible lineup. That Jackson Dart lineup sucked. This one doesn't. 141, the best thing we built the whole time. Don't forget, folks, link in the description. The promo code is OKC. Doesn't have to just be an NBA package for you. You're here watching an NFL show. If you are not a member of Stokastic and you've been on the fence thinking about it, 20% off an all-access monthly package right now will cover you for the NFL for the whole day. You want to play the 1 o'clock, the 4 o'clock, the Sunday night games? You could do that. You could play the NBA slate today as well. Golf, MMA, hockey projections, and ownership. Whatever you're looking for here, guys, we're covering you. This code is not going to last forever. If you want to get in, today is the best possible day to do it. Why wouldn't you want to use this code, get the all-access package, and play today's NFL slate? I don't know. I think you just would. That's all I've got, folks. There are 2 people here waiting to come into this show and talk pigskin with you guys. I think they're the best to do it. They've been doing it at this time every week of the NFL season for how many years now? 5? 6? It's the gold standard in the industry, folks. Dave Loughran, Ben Raza are here to talk some football for you guys. Please enjoy it. Have some fun with these guys. I'm going to force them on right now, whether they're ready or not. There's Loughy. There's Ben.
Oh, wow. I did not expect that.
I don't care if you're ready, boys.
All right. Well, thank you for nothing, sir. That was a solid solo show, though, Josh. I gotta say, not bad.
I even enjoyed it, which wouldn't have expected that. Pretty good.
Man, we should use that as promotional material. The NFL live before lock. Even I enjoyed it.
You want to stay for
Perfect.
another 90 minutes? You're in a groove, We'll just make it a 3-man show.
I would bring a lot to this. Honestly, I got a lot of NFL takes today, but I've given the people the data. You guys got to give them the real NFL stuff. What's up?
We will. This stream was just getting choppy on me. I'm cutting you. We'll see you soon. Later, brother. Hey, can you hear me all right, Ben?
I hear you. What's with am I going crazy or is everything yellow? Did we change that society? These giant yellow boxes now?
Everything's yellow, but for some reason, I feel like I'm delayed here significantly.
You seem all right.
See, like it's taking forever for you to respond to me.
No, I'm just a little slow.
Well, let's get into the.
Yeah, you are a little choppy, actually.
No, it's me. It's me.
Okay.
Hold on a second here. Hold on. I'm gonna leave and come back. Open up the show. I'm gonna leave and come back.
I got us covered. Loughy's leaving to come back. I'm in control. You guys know the drill. We're about to break down all 10 of these. Josh, credit where credit is due. He did set the stage nicely for us. We've got a lot to talk about. We've got pay-up running backs. We've got cheap wide receivers. We've got a tight end position that's going to have some pretty heavy chalk. And then we've got a string of quarterbacks like Justin Fields that you may not want to talk about, but we have to talk about. So we're going to get into all that. We're going to answer all your questions. I'll probably victory lap a little good college football from yesterday, but I'm not going to get started on the games just yet because the first game is Giants and Eagles, and I can't legally talk about that without Loughy. You see, I said Eagles, and all of a sudden, he reappears. So look who's back joining us. I was just about to talk about the Eagles.
Oh, Eagles today against the Giants. Can you hear me all right? Are we good?
Yeah, you're good.
There we go. I don't know what that was. I think it happened with the crossover between you, me, and Josh. But
yeah, it
is what it is. We'll get back to where we are. I'll throw the screen share back up there. I did run the Sims. We're good to go there. Glad to have you guys with us. I'm going to do like one more quick intro, and then we'll jump into it. I'm assuming you didn't tell people to atone for their sins this morning.
No, I didn't. I didn't talk about anything except my good college football week. So
nice.
Yeah, it was nice.
Good. You made it about you. You made it about you. That's okay.
When you're the only one here, you get the luxury of being able to do that.
All right. Well, atone for your sins this morning. Hit that thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel. Goes a long way. We appreciate you guys for that. And that's much better to switch.
Yeah, I can't be on the wrong side. I had to switch that.
That made me uncomfortable. Almost gave me anxiety. Glad to have you guys here, though. It's a wonderful Sunday. One of the slates, I got to tell you, man, I don't know if this is just me, but I feel uncomfortable with it. Usually I go into it and there's like a group of quarterbacks and stacks that I really love. I feel less confident in that today than I have in recent weeks. Like I may just spread it around more than I typically have. And the Sims are giving us guys like Tyler Huntley too. You know, that you're going to get some probably Fields and, you know, it's not going to be pretty.
This is a weird slate. I don't even know if I mean that in a way of like it's weird and I love it or weird and I hate it, but it is weird. It's so value has opened up, but it's just like value that I'm not super comfortable with. So you're really just asking yourself, and we're going to dive, of course, really deep into this. There's a couple different factors. One, is it good value? Two, even if it's not, do you love these pay up options so much that you say, okay, even if this value is average at best, I need Jonathan Taylor and McCaffrey together in lineups. I need Bijan and Chase and another big time player. The only way to do that is to be uncomfortable. So it's really that balance. And then how many people are going mid-range today? Because to me, I've built some lineups. I've run the Sims. I'm getting a lot of stars and scrubs type builds where it's a big time players and cheap options.
A lot. Well, anyway, let's dive into it. As always, glad to have you guys taking your Sunday morning and spending it with us. We should be elsewhere. We're here. That's okay. And you know what else I plan on doing, Ben? I plan on having a I promise it's not sacrilegious. My wife and kids are at church right now, as a matter of fact. But I thought it was a neat concept. Going to do the Sunday prayer over on Tails with like a little 5-leg touchdown round robin parlay. What do you think? Maybe get in on that action with me?
I wouldn't be opposed. Let's do it.
Well, we'll do it right after this show. And Josh gave you a good rundown on Tails. Appreciate all of you guys who are not even appreciate to see how many of you guys are loving Tails over there. So we'll talk more about that. Let's get into the game. Number 1, we only got 10 today and no London game either. So I think you have 16. This is one of those big buys. You have 6 teams on a bye. So despite no London game, no doubleheader on Monday, you still only have 10 games today. West Up, it's a dope app. Glad to see it, man. Glad to see it. Appreciate it. If you guys don't mind too, hit us with a review over on the Tails app if you're using it. Even just like a 5-star rating if you like it. If you don't have a lot of time, just rating it, review, whatever. We'll talk about that later. But anyway, this is a weird one because the Philadelphia Eagles and the Giants played each other 2 weeks ago, right? It was a Thursday, so like they both had extended rest going into last week, but then this week, this is a like divisional spot 2 weeks later after the Eagles got their dicks kicked in on Thursday Night Football by 14 points as 7-point, I think it was 7-point road favorites or 6.5-point road favorites. So yeah, it's tough, man, because the Eagles without A.J. Brown do get Jalen Carter in this game where they didn't have him last game. They do have Quinyon Mitchell where they lost him early in that game to a hamstring injury. And then it was just kind of over from there. The defense couldn't stop anybody. The offense stalled out. This game in the Link at home, I mean, it does feel like the Eagles should win, but I've had a tough time. Like I said it in my betting video earlier this week. The Eagles are the type of team that every year I have my finger on the pulse. Like 2023, I faded them heavily second half of the season. Last year, ran with the Eagles hard. You could just see it. This year, I'm having a really tough time figuring out where I should be on the Eagles, and I'm not certain who they are, but I do know that without A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, and Dallas Goedert look very good, and I plan on playing a lot of them.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about that. You remove one piece of the puzzle, and we'll bring up the data in just a second on this. It's going to be interesting because that was not a spot that we talked about or anticipated, at least I didn't. And now what happens? The interesting thing you just mentioned, of course, a couple of big-time players for them, but there's also a couple of big-time players that I'm not sure exactly what it does, and that is maybe this the catalyst to get Saquon involved more? He's been underwhelming, kind of been an afterthought. Yeah. Running backs loaded. I don't know, because certainly I think we all know Devonta Smith, Dallas Goedert, they figure to be certainly involved today.
So here's my question for you, right? Because I don't think I don't think the question should be a matter of, is Saquon Barkley a good play today? I think it should be more in the context of, is Saquon Barkley worth it when you have a slew of other really good running backs in good spots? Like if you just went down the list of running backs today, and by the way, this is not like a rhetorical question. I'm genuinely asking you. You have Taylor against the Titans as a 14.5-point favorite. You have Christian McCaffrey, albeit tough matchup, but the guy's workload is insane. With no Ricky Pearsall again today. Mac Jones targets McCaffrey a ton in the passing game. Bijan, Algiers questionable. Drake London's questionable. We'll get to that. You have Devon Achane. You have James Cook, Rashad White, Derrick Henry, even without Lamar. They're still 3-point favorites. J.K. Dobbins, Chase Brown. I'll even throw Alvin Kamara in there without, Kendre Miller. There's so many good running backs that what is the opportunity cost to getting to somebody like Saquon Barkley?
That's the problem, but it's always this delicate balance of what is the opportunity cost, but what is the potential payout? Because how many people are looking to really do that right now when you think of a running back position that is absolutely loaded? And that is something that I am trying to weigh a little bit because, yeah, like you and everybody else, I'm looking at it and I'm saying, I want Jonathan Taylor today. Well, I better get Bijan. Well, McCaffrey's in an absolute kill spot. I'm not really thinking of Saquon. And that has been, I think, an oversight on my part, but it's just that balance of opportunity cost, as you mentioned. Let's see what I can do here.
For sure. And for what it's worth, people mentioning this in chat, Ben, that's good. Yeah. Perfect. For people mentioning this in chat, the absence of Cam Jurgens is significant. There's no doubt about it. I mean, they've had kind of not a revolving door because most of these guys have been somewhat healthy, but it is true. You know, Lane Johnson missed some time, not any games, but he missed like a half of 2 consecutive games. Landon Dickerson has been playing at less than 100% all year long, and he's missed time. And now you have Cam Jurgens with the knee. So I do think that's meaningful. I'll get to some Barkley, Ben. It looks like we have, if you go to, hold on, remove yours for a second. Let me put mine up and just see if we have no effect. Let me remove yours real quick and just see. I don't know what's going on with me on the streaming end, but if we end up being okay here, like you can hear me fine and everything right now.
I do.
Yep, we should be okay. So let's do this. Perfect. There we go. And you guys let me know in chat if anything starts to lag. I couldn't tell you what's going on my end, but we'll just flip and Ben can start screen sharing. I favored 150 lineups, and I actually did 5 uniques here because to me, it's far more important to see what it looks like with uniques than if you're just favoriting the top 150 lineups. Would suggest you guys do the same thing. And not, if you're using the tools, not just run it as 150 from the top. You're going to get really concentrated. Now, if you're okay with super concentrated exposures and a lot more volatility week over week, do that. I like to smooth it out a little bit, and you're still going to get over the field on a lot of guys anyway and have positive leverage there. But here it is, Ben. 35% Devonta, which is fine with me. 18% Goddard on National Tight Ends Day. 15% Barkley, 10%. This is kind of where I want it. 7% Hurts. I don't think I'm going to change much. I like running it with these uniques. This actually looks really good to me.
Yeah, I'm pretty content with that as well. I may throw in maybe it's just I want to keep it going. I may throw in an Eagles stack and group it with Hurts. It's not my favorite build of the day, but the Eagles definitely are a team not to ignore today. I think the Giants might be a team to ignore today.
Well, here you go with the Giants.
Yeah, as you can see.
A little bit of Giants D, Wan'Dale Robinson, Theo. I think you could talk about Scatterbo in the same vein as Barkley. Just like it's hard to get to Cam Scatterbo at his, newly risen price point when you've got all of these other guys.
Yeah, I mean, I do see some of the parallels. I also see some differences in that. I think that Saquon could explode for a ceiling game. Scatterbo has been much better, but his price has come up. I don't like this matchup nearly as much. I am not going to get him today.
I don't think I will either. I guess the only other question in this game is last week you were, and shout out to you on those Eagles stacks. It's always a shame when you take some good stands that you don't bink. Like, I've had some stands this year where it's like, man, I got all of it right. And then I was missing one piece that took me from first to, 20th or something like that. I was pulling for you thinking he's on the right track. You even talked about the doubles. Not a lot of people like to run those Hurts doubles with Brown and Devonta. Both of those guys were cheap enough where you could do it. You were on it. What pieces, what were the pieces that you would have needed? Like, where were you wrong in those lineups? Because I know you had a good amount of them in some upper mid stakes stuff as well.
Yeah, I mean, once you get, and this, probably better than me this year because you've got like 10 top 20 finishes and 0 wins. You've been close without.
Yeah, I know.
When you get up there, it's not even like, oh, this guy got 4. It's like this guy got 18. And it was kind of that, like I had Ladd kind of as my closer in those lineups, and he was fine without exploding. Your boy probably really cost me in Gadsden, and now we've seen him twice. It's funny, I'm talking about the slate, but they played again since then, and he's just been electric.
He's sick, dude. I'm telling you, that guy's really good.
So yeah, it was mostly that I didn't have the Browns defense, but the other part of it, just to tie it back, you needed the right run back, and I had mostly Jefferson on the bring back, and Addison really was the guy that you wanted in terms of that Minnesota bring back against the Eagles. So it was still very effective, and I think we're going to talk about, I'm at least going to talk about a couple of low-owned stacks that I think have some upside again. And you're not going to get them right often, but when you do, could be that was my best lineup of the whole year, was those Eagles +2 last week.
You have to sometimes go into this with the approach that like this lineup probably loses, but if they do well, not a lot of people are going to be on it, and if you can embrace that mentality, you're going to have at least, and this might sound crazy to you, but you're going to have at least not going to, but the likelihood that you have at least one really good week is a lot higher than if you're just jamming only chalk. Now, chalk has done well this year, Ben, but when you look at those lineups, it's always one or two pieces that are not chalky. It's just kind of a chalk core, which both of us are perfectly fine with. And I think there's a big difference there for sure.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Anyway,
yep.
Let's talk about Chicago and Baltimore. This one was surprising. I don't know if you saw it, but there's an investigation now into the practice reports. Or I'm sorry, the essentially like how Lamar Jackson went limited, and then full, and then they just said he's not good to go. That was surprising, not just to you or me, but the line held at 6.5 all week long. All week long, it held at 6.5. But I do have something really interesting to show you in this game. Okay, not only are the Baltimore Ravens still 3.5 point favorites, which they are, but the thing that stood out the most to me over literally anything else in this spot. Now, I don't know, had you seen where Derrick Henry's touchdown prop was earlier in the week?
I did not. I did. Well, go ahead. I bet a Derrick Henry prop as my bet of the day over on Tails is a Derrick Henry prop today.
What is it?
Over his rushing yards. I think this is just a very good spot for him.
Okay, so I do as well. And I had a lot of questions last night coming in on Twitter that were just like, do we still go to Derrick Henry? This and that. My answer's a resounding yes here. Now, he is a touchdown dependent. He's a touchdown dependent. We like to call them decimal backs, right? They rely on touchdowns. He's not super involved in the passing game. He is a boom or bust option, but he's also $6,000. Now, his touchdown prop in spots was about -190 throughout the week as Lamar Jackson was expected to play. He is now -240 on FanDuel, Ben. And I think one of the really important reasons here is that when you look at the Baltimore team that faced the Houston Texans in week 5, right? Or even the Rams to some extent in week 6, this defense was dealing with a ton of injuries. Not that Madubuike's on the IR. Like, that's certainly a big absence. But they, over the course of the last couple of weeks, including the bye week, have gotten extremely healthy on defense. I know the Bears are playing decent football right now, but go look at this team now, right? Like, Roquan Smith is healthy. Hamilton's healthy. Humphrey's healthy. There were so many guys that were out, right? Just completely out. Ronnie Stanley was hurt. He's off the injury report on the offensive line. There were so many. Awuzie was hurt. Look at this practice or this injury report now compared to where it was a few weeks ago. Assuming Baltimore's defense can hold up in a game like this, that is what makes Derrick Henry viable. It's not just Lamar Jackson. If you're playing from behind, what viability does Derrick Henry have? So to me, I actually think the defense is almost more important than Jackson, not from an efficiency standpoint for Henry, but for a workload perspective.
Yeah, and listen, I mean, all of this stuff around Baltimore, the only data point that I really care about in a cumulative nature is that they're 2.5 point favorites at home. So clearly, as much as it's the last stand for them, they are slight favorites to win the game. And if they do win the game, I find it hard to believe that Derrick Henry doesn't have volume. And if he has volume, I find it hard to believe that he doesn't wear down a Bears defense, that if you look at opponent, yards per rushing attempt, things of that nature, they're in the basement. So this is a really good spot. Derrick Henry killed me a couple weeks ago, not falling in the end zone from the 1 yard line. He's certainly likely to score today. And if he does score, it could be a typical Derrick Henry, 20 plus carries, multiple touchdowns. I don't think that's even remotely out of the range of possibilities.
Nope. And you know what else can happen? 20 carries for 75 yards and no touchdowns, and he finishes with 7.5. I'm trying, you have to look at Derrick Henry from both sides every single week.
Yeah, I mean that's just the nature of somebody that isn't going to give you a free 6-8 points through the air.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
just not like that. But this is about as good a spot. And it's funny. I've been guilty of this. I'm just like Derrick Henry, man. It's been a rough year. He's averaging 5 yards per carry.
I know.
The guy just ran for north of 100 against the Rams. He's had a couple blow up games. It just hasn't all come together. So I'm fine with him, and I'll just zoom out a little bit. I'll get this out of the way. I'm fine with Zay Flowers. I really am. I think that price point is fine. I know the quarterback situation is murky, and Goody did bring up a good point. With Hundley, the ceiling probably is in question, but you have to ask yourself, if he does give you 18, say, are you signing for that? That's one of the keys to open up the rest of your lineup potentially in a good points per dollar without raw point aggregation.
I'd unquestionably sign for 18 on Huntley. Does that mean he's going to get there? No, I'd be fine with 18 at 4,300.
That's what I mean. So it's
what's that?
Yeah, that's where it's tricky, because it's like 18 from your quarterback. That's not exactly what you would sign for, but 18 for your quarterback, and now your running backs are possibly, Jonathan Taylor and McCaffrey. Now we're getting somewhere.
Yep. I don't love Zay Flowers today, only because, Huntley's not great at throwing the football. We saw him start a bunch of games for Miami. It was terrible, but they also brought him on out of nowhere. And that Miami team is so bad. Like, I don't know, maybe it doesn't matter. Joseph, Henry had 4 games. He didn't break 50 yards in 2 big games. Exactly. Dude, that's in a nutshell. That's Derrick Henry. Maybe not breaking 50 yards because, they fell behind so early, but that's what you go look at last year. Go look at last year with Derrick Henry, man. You'd be surprised. Derrick Henry had some really quiet games, and then he just had monster games and still finished with almost 2,000 rushing yards. It's just the type of player he is.
Yep.
But at 6K, I'm more than on board. I'm not really looking to get as many pass catchers probably as you are. I know you don't mind Flowers. I'm fine with him. I don't want to overload on anybody there. I have little confidence in Tyler Huntley, but I'll play some Huntley because he is the bottom. He is the absolute bottom. William, Henry plays Thursday. We've seen all year running backs get limited with a Thursday day coming. Yes, William, but I think you have to, again, out of context, that makes sense. Put it in context. This is a 1-5 football team, right? It's a 1-5 football team that if they fall to 1-6, you're not just talking about an uphill climb to make the playoffs. You're talking about like potentially having to run the table to close out the year. So, I think there's some element here of there's a sense of urgency that if you don't get wins and if Derrick Henry is not a driving force behind moving the football, it doesn't matter, right? So I'm not too super concerned about that today, Ben, given their circumstances. If they were 5-1 or even 4-2 or 3-3, you could probably twist my arm and convince me that that's the case.
Yeah, they don't have the luxury of worrying about next week, unfortunately. Like if they have to give him 30 carries today, they will do it. I feel very confident about that.
Exactly. Did you want to hit on this super chat from Tom?
Sure. When we get to the New York Jets game, can you go in depth on Hall's projections and compare him to Henry? 16.5 seems high. I want to understand why he projects high. Yeah, well, we will absolutely get to that when we get to the Jets game. I'll just say this. I think it's just mostly, if you want a quick version, the Jets, as bad as they are, they don't have any other players. So Breece Hall, he's the opposite of Derrick Henry in every way, in the sense that if he doesn't score, he could rival him just on getting like 6 to 8 dump offs that really raised the floor and a couple big runs. But we'll get there. The next 2 games we have super chats on, and they're very good questions.
I didn't read that in advance. That's poor producing for me over here. If I read that in advance and noticed that you had it starred, I probably could have done something better.
It's okay. So, it's not your fault. Goodwill Hunting style.
Anyway, Chicago Bears. Any interest on the Bears side? I'm going to pull the Sims back up for you guys to see where we're at here on both Baltimore and Chicago as Ben breaks down the Bears. I don't love them today, man.
You love the Bears today?
I don't love the Bears today.
Oh, I was gonna say, okay. I don't like the Bears. I might bet Baltimore for what it's worth. the defense is healthier. It's still not a defense I fear. So if I land on a guy like Odunze, so be it. But if I don't, I'm not really concerned. And that's honestly the extent. I don't see myself getting to Caleb. I don't really see myself getting to a lot of the peripheral options. Swift has been good. The one guy I do want to note is Loveland, just because of the tight end situation. The interesting thing about him, though, we already have some real value at tight end. So you're not really accomplishing anything. Maybe a pivot off of Schultz or someone like that, but I don't really have a lot of outside of Odunze.
Yeah, we got 5%. Not a ton of DeAndre Swift. There's just one spot where I keep asking myself, am I making a mistake in assuming Baltimore's defense will be better this week, right? Like I've mentioned to you, they're coming off of a bye. Their defense outside of Matabuke is healthy. So essentially like the whole defense is healthy again. Am I putting too much importance on that? Like, is Baltimore's defense still going to be bad?
Well, we're going to find out. I don't
not
think
the answer great. I'm looking for here.
I mean, I don't think they're great. No, but they're not. They weren't just bad. I think we have to frame it in that context. They weren't just bad. They were like historically bad. Yes. I don't think we'll see that. No.
Okay. That's kind of where I'm at too. Like you're at home off of a bye. Look, if they come out today at 1-5, Ben, and just get steamrolled by Caleb Williams and company, it's over. It's over.
That's what I think people, and it doesn't mean I've been in many situations where a team has to have it and they don't get it.
Yes. All the time.
But all the time. That's not just like, oh, they need it. But I will say this, they need it. This is it. And you're off a bye at home as a slight favorite. If you can't get it done here, you're not getting it done. I personally think that they will get it done today. I think they're going to look pretty damn good, actually.
Man, there were so many people talking about National Tight Ends Day for like bets and stuff.
I'm sure there were.
I didn't go back and like check historical odds, but it really feels like these books are just nuking the odds on these one-way tight end touchdown lines, man. Like, I don't know if you've seen some of them, but there were some books that had like Cade Otton at plus 145 and Dalton Schultz at plus 170.
Yeah, I mean, they can get away with it, so why not?
Right. There's no. You can't bet no. Like, and everyone's going to
exchanges.
Yeah, right. If you do National Tight Ends Day and just type it into a Twitter search, it's just all of these massive betting accounts, right? I'll leave it at that. With like 7-leg anytime touchdown, all tight end parlays. Like someone tweeted me and was like, yeah, but dude, if the books are opening the doors and welcoming you in to bet it, you have to do it. Like, no, if sports books are opening you up the doors, you should be running in the opposite direction as fast as you possibly can.
Yeah, they're not in the business of handing out favors, trust me. But
right.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, there's going to be some tight ends that score today, and it will be solely attributed that it's National Tight End Day when, in fact, tight ends score all the time.
Josh says coaches don't care about National Tight Ends Day. You know, the funny thing is last year there were more tight end receptions in a single day in NFL history on National Tight Ends Day than ever before. Yeah, sure. And there was one fewer touchdown for total tight ends on National Tight Ends Day than there were on any other week in the history of the NFL. But here's the difference between betting and DFS. With the salaries here, it doesn't matter. There's some wonderful salaries, right? So like, let's say that they do emphasize tight ends or they don't. You were already getting to Dalton Schultz at his price point. You were already going to get to a cheap Cade Otton with no Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. You were already going to get to these guys. When it comes to betting and they're only offering one-way lines, you don't have a choice if you're betting on like traditional books, like these rec books. You're taking the plus 150 on Cade Otton or you aren't. And most people aren't able to discern the difference between what it should be and what it is. So they just hammer it anyway because now they're getting 40-1 on their 5-leg parlay when it should be 100-1.
Yeah. This is all very true. Now, doesn't mean there can't be values out there. Well, like I said, we're going to dig into I will have an anytime touchdown parlay on Tails for free this afternoon. Maybe it'll have a tight end there, but maybe it won't. I really have no idea.
Yeah. if I were to go to one, like, regardless of price, I think Dallas Goedert with no AJ Brown makes a lot of sense. The way they've used him in goal to go situations when they think they're going tush push or when they think they're going Barkley with those weird like shovel pass styles plays to Goddard, that's interesting to me, especially with no Brown.
I would go with, honestly, Tyler Warren. He's just
good.
He's just so good that, and they're going to have touchdowns to go around.
What is he, minus 200 this week?
I mean, I haven't even. Jonathan Taylor is like, I think like minus 500.
Is he actually like minus 300 or shorter?
I don't. I'm pretty sure he is actually. I'll tell you. Go ahead. Let's talk about the Bills, but I'm bringing that up.
Yeah, man. Let's take Buffalo here, minus 7.5. Talk about them against the Panthers. All this reporting, Josh Allen's never lost 3 games in a row, Ben.
Minus 390.
What is it?
Minus 390. That's the highest I think I've ever seen.
If you could get, what's the no bet on that? Do you have it pulled up on OddsShopper by any chance on the live odds to see what Penny or Circa has on the no?
No, I don't. I can. It's probably 270, something like that.
I mean, if this were the same game against Miami, like it were in week 1, and we knew what we know now about Taylor in Miami, Justin Taylor would have been like minus 400 to score, and he didn't score in that game. So I'd be curious just to see what his no odds are. If you could, yeah.
I'm bringing it up. Let's see. Cool.
But anyway, while you do that, Buffalo coming off a bye, we still don't have any clarity on Dalton Kincaid, which kind of sucks. He missed last game. They go into a bye, and he's still questionable now, dealing with that oblique injury. The question I have for you in the passing game before we get to James Cook III is, like, who do you go to here, right? Even if Kincaid's out, are you looking to Knox when there's so much value already in the 3K range at tight end? Do you look to Shakir when you already have wide receiver value? You look to somebody like Keon Coleman, who's either like he gets work or he's totally uninvolved in the offense. It's just, it's going to sound crazy, but it's a tough team to get to right now. Josh Allen's the only 7K and up quarterback on the slate. Carolina's defense is playing better, but to me, that's the least important factor of all of this. It just feels tough to figure out where the volume's coming from with the Bills right now.
It is very difficult. I mean, they have this mantra. It's going to be fascinating of like everybody eats, and that was working. Now they're losing. So I'm really interested to see if they consolidate a little bit. If this was a short slate, it was Thanksgiving, it was a doubleheader Monday, we would be talking a lot about, I think at least, Coleman and Shakir and some of these guys, but it's not. And so they can maybe get a little more and get to 7 or 8 targets or whatnot, but you're still against people that are getting double-digit targets that are straight alphas that don't have 5 or 6 or 8 other guys to compete with. Now, James Cook to me is in a separate situation. They're still north of a touchdown favorite. He's on the ground. I like him as kind of I don't even want to say a leverage play, but given the depth at running back, he's someone I am trying to get exposure to. I'd be lying if I said I'm trying to get exposure, though, to the Bills passing game. Maybe if I get to some Josh Allen by default, but other than that, I don't have one-offs of these guys. It's too hard to decipher.
I'm with you. Whenever we mention James Cook as a low-owned pivot, I have to bring up our
every
bunch,
time.
right?
Yeah.
Like you have to do it because Rick or Bunt Cake, who I interviewed last year after this win, he was really fun to talk to and he had some great insight. He runs the Sims and then hand selects his 150. So he hand selects them from the Sims the same way I would do. I have like 30 lineups today, not including my 150s. I have 30 that are in single entry 3 or 5 max. And I go through and I hand select all 30 of them, Ben, every single week. And then I will run the Sims with uniqueness and do a little bit of exposure caps and boosts for my 150s with usually like 5 uniques. But he did it with this last year, and he emphasized, you can see it in the bottom left, Rick emphasized James Cook against Seattle. 2% ownership. Nobody played James Cook. The same year he scored, 68 touchdowns and ended up winning the Millie. And I love that process But more so, I love the idea that you can use the sims to take the lineups that are already simmed, right? So these are already positively simmed lineups, right? We're running tens of thousands of sims. We're creating contests that are supposed to replicate the fields you're playing in, which is what the contest generator does. Then you bring it to the sims and it simulates it. So when you're hand selecting these lineups, you already know, Ben, that you're selecting good lineups. The only difference is that now you have a little bit of autonomy. You have some control over which ones you want to get if you wanted to get a little bit different and get unique with some of these one-off pivots. Because if I recall correctly, he said the rest of his lineup, no surprise, was actually pretty chalky.
I mean, that's something that is I'd say a pretty common theme on Millie winners. If you look at the lineups, for the most part, you're like, okay, it wasn't like, who's this guy? I've never heard of him. It's like, oh, like he played T. Higgins when everyone was playing Jamar Chase, and he played, another really good player that people weren't thinking about at a different time. And that's sometimes all it takes. Like, again, I will reference last week. You easily could have won a milli with an Eagles stack. Hurts, Devontae Smith, and A.J. Brown. Everyone in the world has heard of those guys. It was just leverage within that. And James Cook, many weeks, has shown that he can be that type of player. With this loaded running back range, something has to give for these next tier backs, and he could be in that bucket again this week.
Yep. You know what else could happen is he could have 30, but so does like 4 other guys, and it kind of doesn't matter. It's possible. Totally possible.
Well, yeah, there's going to be more than 3 running backs today that you want. And so
yeah, that's a good way to look at it.
You're going to be missing somebody.
Anyway, you want to check the tools out, whether it's the single lineup sim that Josh was running that we do every Wednesday that I use for a lot of my single entry stuff. You can now cross manage the entry manager too. So like if you take your lineups from DraftKings or FanDuel, put them in the entry manager, load your 150 from the sims, and then you want to go to the single lineup sim and you can load them straight into the same entry manager and export it straight to DraftKings or FanDuel. It's beautiful. If you guys want to get access to these tools, and I mean for free, you'll see the link in the description. If you're mobile right now or on your desktop, laptop, whatever it may be, click into the description, sign up with any of our sportsbook partners and get the sims for free. It's that simple, man. Like, when I say it's that simple, I mean, you literally just click claim offer on any of these. Onyx, I have people all the time. Yeah, but Loughy, I'm in a non-legal betting state. Onyx is in 40 plus states. It's a sweepstakes book, right? Better, Sleeper, Underdog, Pick Six, all of these spots are not traditional books, and they're available in most states. Otherwise, you have Caesars, you have Fanatics, you have BetMGM, you have all of these. FanDuel, if you're somehow not on FanDuel, click claim offer, sign up, make a deposit. The minimum deposit on all of these is $5 or $10. And with some of them, you're getting $100 in bonus picks here when you spend 10. That's a massive one. That's 10 into 100 right there. So you've already cleared 10x what you deposited or spent on Onyx. So many other have 100% match bonuses. Fanatics has a great one, 50 to 250. So you're not just getting a free month of the Sims, which you are, but you're also getting either matched or these bonus bets and everything over there on these other books. Make a bet or set a lineup after you sign up with this claim offer. Deposit whatever it is, 5 or 10 or more if you want. Take screenshots of your welcome email, your first settled bet, and email us, not the sports books. Email us at support@stokastic.com and tell us what you want. The best part, Ben, is if you went in and were like, I want to go on Caesars, Onyx, and Fanatics, right? So you spend, let's say, a total of $25. That's 3 months of the Sims. You could grab NFL, NBA, and whatever, MMA, and you could literally just run all 3 of those together with $25 total deposit, and it's like, what, $450 value. So it's simply no better way to get it done.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm not going to add anything. You summed it up. It's super flexible, it's dynamic, and it has something for everyone, no matter what state or what type of betting, platform you want to use. It's value on top of value, and there's legitimately no better time of the year. I can say that confidently because today's the equinox of sports, where every game, like I hit a cross sport parlay the other day where I bet football, basketball, baseball, and hockey all on the same night. You don't get to say that too often. Yep.
It's awesome. Ron, the perfect lineup is blurry on Twitter because it's like it's a teaser,
Go to Tails. The lineup is there for free.
Put the lineup. It's right on Tails for free. And Josh does a sick job with that every single week. Anything else for Buff? For me, it's God. This is scary. They're 7.5 point favorites, but James Cook is my preferred option here.
I agree. I think if you're getting into greasy teasers today, you have to consider Buffalo.
Yeah, sure. And there's a lot of teaser spots. There's a lot of these 6.5, 7.5 point favorites, man. A lot of them.
Oh yeah.
You can already see Philly minus 7.5, Buffalo minus 7.5, Cincy minus 6.5, New England minus 7. I mean, a 7-point teaser gets the Eagles to 0.5 point. It gets the Bills to 0.5 point, and it gets New England down to 0. That's crazy, man. Which means that one of these teams just has to lose outright.
Somebody's going down.
Someone has to.
Yeah.
Do you like anything from if this were just Rico Dowdle and there was no Chuba Hubbard, I would have ridiculous amounts of Rico Dowdle today.
Yeah, listen, it's just it's in some ways parallel to what we just talked about with Buffalo. It's not personnel, it's just how the team makeup is. And I'm not really looking to mess around with the unknown of what's going on with Carolina in terms of their passing attack. Tough spot for Carolina today. I think you could YOLO their defense if you wanted to, but you could say that about almost of the 20 teams. There's I can make a case for 16, 18 defenses if I had to. You're muted.
A lot, yeah. JJT said Carolina's only given up 3 touchdowns to running backs. This is true. But also the Buffalo Bills are uniquely equipped to have those type of games where when they have those games, it doesn't really matter, and that might be me just saying that like some anecdotal statement, Ben, but I think you'd agree. When Baltimore is firing on all cylinders, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, I mean, Buffalo's a high octane offense, and Carolina, that is that's a good data point for sure. They're also middle of the road in yards allowed per attempt. They're no juggernaut on the ground, so it didn't sound that crisp.
That was right off the rim and in, baby.
Yeah, off the rim, real good.
Wait, you could hear it. Could you hear it hit?
Yeah. Oh, I could hear it. I heard a little rattling.
The trash can's 30 feet away, so the fact that
30, living the dream over there.
It's about 8.
Yeah, 8. That sounds more reasonable.
But it's like darts. You ever play darts?
No.
No?
No. I mean, I'm familiar with the concept. You throw it to the bullseye.
You like playing disc golf. You have a form, right? You get a form down. I have a form. Like a normal, yeah. Right. As it is with anything. So
of course, it's all muscle memory.
I'm electric. I'm automatic.
Good shot.
But yeah, the Panthers. I don't love Ted McMillan here. Teteroa McMillan. The running back spot is kind of tough. Just before we move on, is there anything you want to do with Carolina? And
no.
Would you? Okay.
No.
All right. Fair enough. Let's talk about New York Jets and Cincy. We will get to your guys' super chats in just a minute here too. Don't worry. We got plenty of time. It's a 10-game slate, so we have the pacing is it's not lost on me. All right. So, Ronald, what about naked Josh Allen stacks? It's not crazy. I don't think a lot of people are going to do that. But all right, Ben, here you go. I'm going back to Justin Fields today.
Yeah.
You guys here listen. I'm giving all of you the opportunity, free reign right now to hit me with the booze. It's okay. I deserve it. I'm a man of my word. When I'm wrong, I will happily admit it. Feel free to hit me with everything. That's fine. But Tyrod Taylor's out. There are no options behind Justin Fields. It is the Cincinnati Bengals coming off of and by the way, let me step back for a second.
Yes.
Seriously though, I mentioned this to you on Tuesday. I think it's important because there might be some new DFS players out there who don't necessarily understand how exposures work. I still only ended up on, I think, 11% Fields last week. Was I over the field? Absolutely. Were there some good lineups I had where Fields hurt me? Absolutely. Did it determine my week? No, I had a slightly down week. I'm not suggesting when I say going back to Fields that you should be going 100%. This isn't me backpedaling either. I'm going to have Fields. I'm going to be over the field on Fields today, but it's not determining my week. It's just one more quarterback that I want to get into some lineups because he's cheap and because the Bengals are coming off of a huge win where everyone now is like, oh, the Bengals might be for real. And it's also possible that their defense just still is not any good. They still gave up 30 plus points. Yeah, I'll have some Justin Fields because of his rushing upside.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. Maybe I've done this for too long. Like I've had so many players that I have played and they've been horrendously bad, and then you just play them again if the spot lines up. And with Fields, it doesn't mean he's more likely to play better, but one thing has been removed: he can't really get benched now. So you are going to get a longer league.
That's what I'm saying.
Even if he sucks, you will get more opportunities. And I have multiple times this year not realized how low the floor is on the Jets. The only good thing I did, and not to throw dirt on your already dead carcass of betting the Jets, but I stayed away from the Jets last week and I was very tempted against Carolina. The Jets are just a broken franchise, but that doesn't make Justin Fields non-playable. Far from it, because he has something that no one else on this slate has, and that's 100-yard rushing upside.
Yep. Yeah, my carcass. It's true. Yeah, I've told there are certain spots where, like betting sides each year, where I will do really well on a specific team. We're just fully dialed in. You understand this? You're a bettor, right? Like where you're fully dialed in on certain teams, and then there's other teams where you feel like you're fully dialed in and you just never get it right. And for me this year, that's the Jets.
It's BYU football for me.
There you go. But you feel it every week. Like you're going, like all of the stars seem to align pre-flop, right? Like everything looks good. And then it doesn't work.
Flop. BYU, they've mastered the ability to have the other team muff the punt. Real good skill. Very, very elite team there. But yeah, listen, Fields, the question with Fields is who, if anyone, are we pairing him with?
I know. It's Mason Taylor.
Are you going to play a made-up wide receiver?
Oh, creative player day?
Like Arian Smith or, Lazard's not made up, but kind of.
I like Arian Smith. Not today, but I do like him. Tyler Johnson, maybe? I don't know.
What do you mean not today? There's another day for him? Today is the day if you're ever going to play him.
I meant not this season.
Okay, that's fair. I'm saying like he's not waiting for week 11. It's now or never.
Right.
For
no, I'm waiting for a Thursday night football game, probably.
Showdown.
Showdown slate.
Okay, that's fair.
Arian Smith does have some wheels. It's just, Josh Reynolds is out, Ben. So Josh Reynolds is out. I think naked Fields actually makes sense, to be honest with you.
What about with Hall?
I did it last week. You saw how well that worked.
It did work because it was like, all right, I might as well destruct that lineup fully.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Dude, people were shitting on me about Fields, and I was like, that's fine, but you should be shitting on me about, not even me, about Breece Hall. But the reason they weren't is because they liked Breece Hall anyway, and everybody liked Breece Hall. Breece Hall was the one that hurt me more than I had like 35% Breece Hall. That was what hurt me on a big running back week. It wasn't even Fields. So, Mason said, God, Loughy, I lost everything the last 2 weeks in a row on Fields. He does look good again, though. Yeah, but don't lose everything on Fields. That's what I'm saying, man. That was my long diatribe a minute ago. Don't lose everything on Fields, right? And put yourself in a spot where if Fields sucks, you could still have a good week. That's all. Will you be over the field, over 10% on Fields, Loughy? Probably a little bit over, yeah. Rob, Jazz can't say anything about BYU. You remember what happened yesterday in the Discord? Sounds like some inside baseball.
Yeah, BYU. They are bludgeoning me every week in college football, and I can promise you can put it on Sharpie. When they come back after the bye, I will be slamming Texas Tech against BYU because BYU is not an 8-0 team. They're a good team, but they shouldn't be 8-0. That's a fact. But yes, congratulations to the BYU backers yesterday on your 4 turnover plus margin. Look up the splits when a team has 4 turnovers and a pick 6 of how often they win the game.
SC, they would have been praising you if Fields Crush can't win fair weather fans live. You know, it's no people do and appreciate you, SC, but people give me shout me out when things go right and when I hit on the low end guy. It wouldn't be fair if it was a one-way street. You know, then I'm just a scumbag like anybody else. All right. Yeah, I'll play some Fields. I will have some Hall. I don't love him, but it's just Ben. They're cheap enough now, and he has upside. I don't know if I'm going to the Tyler Johnsons or the Arian Smiths. Maybe I get a little bit of those guys, but I will have some Mason Taylor. I'll tell you that much. I actually think Mason Taylor is a good tight end, a good young tight end.
Yeah, and he is expected to play. I'm not worried about him missing. He's sporting a Q tag, but he's going to play.
Okay. Oh, Taylor. Yeah, he should be good to go. I want to ask you about Cincinnati. I'm going to pull exposures up on both of these here so we can see it within the Sims. For those of you guys who jumped in late, I have this on 5 uniques, okay? 5 uniques, so we're smoothing exposures out a little bit here, and that is the way we should be doing it. What do you intend on doing with the Bengals? Flacco looked great last week. He understood the assignment. Throw the ball 23 times to Jamar Chase. Higgins looked great. Higgins should have had a monster 2-touchdown game. He made a selfless move, not one that many people would love, but a selfless move nonetheless. And Chase Brown finally had a game where he found some running room. By far and away, even without Burrow, the best overall offensive game from top to bottom for the Bengals we saw this season. It was against the Steelers on Thursday.
Yeah, I mean, the Bengals definitely have some. It was never a matter of do they have weapons. It was do they have anyone that can get these weapons the ball. And Flacco, as you put it perfectly, understands the assignment. So for me, it's not going to be Flacco. It'll be one-offs. And whether I go, I call it a twist of like, and I know we didn't talk a ton about Breece Hall and we had that super chat. Again, it's just there's not a lot of weapons on the Jets offense. He's going to be busy in any game script, and that's really where his value comes from. And on the other side, it's the same story. Jamar Chase is going to be busy in all formats. The Bengals are not going to get up and be like, great, let's just run their running is throwing him 2-yard A-dots and just living with that. That's the extension of their run game. Chase Brown is not built for that. It's really I call him a big 3, I guess. You have Chase, you have Chase Brown, and then you have Higgins. I don't mind them. I don't think I'll have Flacco, though.
I'll probably have some Flacco. One of the reasons being when you look at this New York Jets defense, I mean, it's watch the Jets win outright. I didn't bet them this week. I will say this much. You guys should bet the Jets this week. I'm telling you, man, I'm off of the Jets this week in the betting streets. You guys should bet the Jets. They're just going to end up winning this game outright. And I'm going to be, I'll gain nothing from it outside of the ability to be like, the opposite of what I do when it comes to the Jets. But Ben, I don't know if you mentioned that Sauce Gardner's out too.
Yeah, which has been a factor. The Jets are just not
but
that
everyone shits on the Jets. Sauce Gardner going into last week was allowing the lowest separation rate of any corner in the league. Like, yeah, he misses tackles and stuff, but he is I bet the under on Tedero McMillan receiving yards at 57.5. He finished with 3 for 33. Sauce can erase players. So now you're taking him out against a Jamar Chase and T. Higgins led offense. That is a problem. And it is one of the reasons why I will still have some Joe Flacco. They don't have DJ Reed anymore. So their tandem that for several years was buoying this team and keeping the defense somewhat strong is now gone. They're in trouble in the secondary.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm not going to push back on that. I still respect the Jets defense a little bit at times. Sauce is a huge piece of it. Volume will get Chase there, if nothing else. He's going to be crazy popular, so keep that in mind. You're not getting anything by playing Jamar Chase. Doesn't mean don't do it. I certainly will be. But yeah, I mean, he checks all the boxes. And no, I know I just talked about this. Knowing that they're going to be playing from ahead, A, we definitely do not know that. And B, even if they do play from ahead, Jamar Chase has to get the volume. There's just no other way to do it.
Yeah.
It's not a given they play from ahead, though. I know it seems like the Jets couldn't win. It's a 6.5 point spread.
Yeah, dude. So, all right. I love phrasing things like this. What is the statistical probability that the Jets win this game outright? Now, people are going to be like, no, that's crazy, but it's not. What would what would be the probability that the Jets win this game, right? You play 100 times. How many times do the Jets win?
I mean, the exercise when you do this is take your answer, then go to OddsShopper and look at the VIG free, break free odds, convert it to a percentage. And if your percentage is way lower, then go and bet the Bengals money line. If you really believe that. Because people are like, they win it 10% of the time. Oh, okay, so that would make the Bengals minus 900. Like the Bengals VIG free is minus 260.
But hold on, just take VIG free is what?
Like minus 260. See,
Okay,
that's what I'm saying. 10%. If you really think that, the Bengals would be like one of the single best bets of the year. Maybe the best bet money line.
Yep. But in reality, it's like 28 or so percent of the time that the Jets win this game, right? If you're giving me the VIG free line on the money line, right? You're around 28%.
Yeah, something like that. I can't do it in my head, but yeah.
Yeah. I just pulled my phone up real quick. I think it was 72.2 for the Bengals. So yeah, there you go. I'm going to get to all of these guys today. I'm actually glad we're getting more Chase than I was in the Sims earlier this week. I kind of like Chase Brown in this game. What's crazy to me? Chase Brown is getting 7% ownership, man. Don't you think that's kind of a fun spot to get to? If Jamar Chase, and I love Jamar Chase today. I think he's the best. I think he's the best wide receiver in the game, and I think he's the most exciting football player to watch in all of the NFL. But this is DFS, and Chase Brown's 7% owned. I think there's something there, to be honest with you.
I'm not going to push back on that. Sure. Opportunities, again, I'm jumping on both sides of this. The Bengals should be playing from ahead. Doesn't mean they will be, but Chase Brown also could catch the ball. It's fine. I guess my bigger decision is, will I have any Chase with Chase Brown? I think you can do it. It's not my favorite build. You're talking about 13 and change. It's definitely doable. It's just a lot of Bengals exposure, and I think this game could be middling in terms of scoring.
I could see that as well. But also, man, the absence of Sauce definitely hurts. Like they don't really. That's secondary. Because when you have a guy like Sauce, they have no. Oh, Aaron Glenn's bad, man. Does he make it through the season?
He shouldn't. He shouldn't. Again, we don't have time for one of my rants, but I don't know why society does this, where it's like, who thinks that Aaron Glenn is the future when the Jets get it together is going to be the coach? No one would say that. So if you know that, why don't you just get rid of him now so you can, speed up this process instead of waiting till week 6 when they're 2-4 next year and then they fire him like the Titans guy, which is what's going to happen.
It's exactly what's going to happen, and they'll just kill all of the kind of like developmental process for a lot of these young guys as well. That's why
Broncos.
What's that?
The Broncos. It was the same story. They should have got rid of Hackett after the first game, and they would be even further along.
Yep, and Brandon Staley should have been gone long before he was as well.
He never should have been hired. That's a whole different. They should have preemptively fired that guy.
All the analytics people loved him too. By the way, Ben, we're at 436 likes, so I wanted to shout you guys out. Appreciate you for coming in and supporting this show. Subscribe if you haven't. Hit that thumbs up. I think we run it up to 700 in the next 30 minutes. I think it's actually very doable.
No, but we'll cross 600, I would say. Like 629 and a half.
All right. Well, I mean, I feel sometimes that you don't trust the people who watch our show. Maybe I just have more conviction in their, in their quality of nature. They're good-natured people.
Quality of nature.
How
about Mike for a second? It's not a stupid question. We got questions like this all the time. Go ahead.
I just purchased the Sims. I'm stuck on the first page. No lineups are generating. It tells me to upload a lineup file. Well, go into the contest generator first. Exactly. And then generate a contest. Here's what you do, Ben. If you could do this for me while I'm talking, go and type in the YouTube Stokastic Sims NFL, Stokastic NFL Sims. Pull up the tutorial and throw it into the chat for Mike. Which will be well worth your time, Mike. But you got to generate the pool of lineups first in the contest generator. And you know what? We have a lot of good people in chat that I guarantee will let Mike know exactly what to do right now. I see it all the time when we do these shows. So
just drop that link though.
Yeah, and then you'll sim your contest with the percentage to first that is within that contest. It's very simple, Mike, but I understand. where you're at there. Anyway, let's get back to this. But I was going to say, one thing we try and do for you guys as well, we have a really sick rewards program. If you're not using the Stokastic avatar, pretty cool opportunity to do so, because you get a free month of The Sims just for using the avatar wherever it is you play. It looks good too. So you just download it, use it wherever it is you play. If you finish top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more, even if that is in the nickel contest, it doesn't matter. The entry fee doesn't matter as long as it's 5,000 or more. You get a free month of Sims Max. It's like a $200 value. You can win again in the same calendar year, get another single sports Sims package, Max, and a free week of another sport you want. I'm telling you, there is no better rewards program out there for any level of stakes player. There's some out there where it's like, unless you're high stakes player, there's no value in it for you. With Stokastic, you get 3 times. You could finish 3 times in the mini max in the top 3 or in the quarter jukebox and get a month of Sims all access, every single sport. Is there any better time of year right now? NBA, MMA, NFL, NBA, all of that going. And of course, you join the Ring of Honor with any 20K plus win of any field. Get the custom engraved ring in the spinning display case commemorating your win. And you know what that means, Ben? That means you get the opportunity when people come into your office and they see that beauty and they say, boy, what is that? That is cool. You look at them straight in the face and you say, you don't deserve an answer. Do you have one of these? And when they say no, you say, get out of my face. That's what the ring does. It empowers you. It turns you into someone different.
Yeah, jackass apparently, but it's still nice to be able to have that in your office. Just don't do everything that he said, but go and get that. It is the best rewards program out there. Why not celebrate with the whole community, get on the Hall of Fame, and get some really cool perks along with it?
Stokastic.com/HOF. A jackass, but a powerful jackass.
Yeah, yes, of course.
When they see that spinning on your desk, they're honestly, dude, this could be like your own dad that walks in. You know, he's staying over in the Christmas house, and your door's wide open, but he knocks gently to make sure he's even allowed inside your office. That's what it does. Houston hosting the San Francisco 49ers. Wait till you get one, man. You'll see what it does.
Today.
That'd be sick. I'm going to go to some Jalen Noel. I'm going to go to some Stroud. I know it's gross, but like Dalton Schultz is so cheap. There is a path here, right? Now, would you be threading the needle? Yes. I have an odd feeling you're going to agree with me here. I saw one of your tweets earlier in the week. There is a path. Again, you're threading the needle though, where like Stroud and say Noel, or maybe you want Higgins, right? Or Hutchinson. Don't go to Braxton Berrios. Now you should, now that I said it. Or Dalton Schultz, where you could double stack, and with their price points, they could finish with like 40 total, and you could still have an incredible lineup with what you're able to do around it. You're not aiming for 40 total. I'm not saying that. But because it's such a cheap stack, and mind you, the Niners are without Fred Warner for the year. They lost Nick Bosa, and now Bryce Huff, their sack leader, is not playing either. They're down a lot of bodies on top of this, and Houston's coming off a rough road loss in Seattle. I'm going to get to a little bit of Houston. They're just dirt cheap, man. I know the offensive line stinks, but it allows you to kind of do anything.
Oh, yeah. This is, I don't know how crazy this is going to be, but I have some Stroud +2 for sure.
Me too. Me too.
This is just a really cheap stack. Again, Houston, it's like, oh, they're a disaster. And they are. I'm not a big fan of what they're doing. They're a 2.5-point favorite inside against a San Francisco team that eventually something has to give. You don't just replace all pro type players on defense. At the Falcons game, we were both on them in that game, and San Francisco did look good. I don't like them in this spot. The only question I'm weighing with Houston is, have they finally realized, and it seems like they did if you look at the snap count percentages, that Woody Marks has to be the guy in this backfield. I'm a big Nick Chubb fan. Nick Chubb just doesn't seem to have it right now, and Woody Marks does. So it's just a question of, do I want to roll him into the Stroud stacks, or do I just want to go very generic? Stroud, roll the dice at wide receiver, and take Schultz. That's probably the prudent move. And then, of course, you have McCaffrey on the bring back if you want it.
It's also a question of, does Loughy have a Woody Marks potential receiving yards ladder over on Tails?
Maybe you do want him with Stroud, I guess.
I don't know, only because the opportunity cost at running back would be just too much this week. I think that's what makes it really tough for me. It's a ladder. You're only totaling it to 1.1 units. Okay. So even if you were to lose this bet, it's the same as losing a straight betting, anything else. But I do like this, Ben. We got some good CLV on this posted earlier in the week. I got like 7 yards of CLV right now on Jalen Noel, which means he's going to finish with 1 for -3. But if you're not on Tails, make sure you're over there and turn on notifications for me, for Ben, for all these guys, because we're getting a lot of these bets in early. If you're doing it on the app, that's the sickest way to do it. I just do everything from the app. And leave us a rating and a review if you haven't done so. We appreciate that. But no, I think Woody Marks is actually good. This guy is actually, and I posted it here, this is totally DFS relevant. Right? His role is increasing. 63% of snaps last week, 23 routes run in week 7. Nick Chubb does look washed, and you said it well yourself. But Marks was an elite pass catching back in college. He already has 3 games with 20 or 3 games with 20 plus receiving yards. Dangerous in space. The guy is pretty shifty. I think if you don't figure out ways to get him and Jalen Noel involved more going forward, you should just fire your offensive coordinator. And I'm not saying that tongue in cheek. I know they have problems, but you should start getting guys like that involved and stop giving Braxton Berrios and Nick Chubb 50% of snaps. That type of stuff doesn't make sense. And I'm tired of seeing coaches set in their ways like that. Get your young guys involved. They're clearly more talented.
There's no doubt about it. So yeah, listen, Houston's a team with some utility, and Goody, the king of the super chat etiquette, leads me right into San Francisco. No McCaffrey in top 20 favorites. Seems like a good leverage against other top running backs. Yeah, I agree. It's not even because he doesn't grade out well. It's just there are so many good spots, but McCaffrey is getting crazy work. He's back to his old ways of, his low for the season is 7 targets in a game, and those are convertible targets. So he is just getting all the work in every game script in a competitive game. What's not to like about McCaffrey? Houston's defense is very good. I respect that, but volume in this situation trumps some of that for me.
I agree. I don't love the passing game. You have no Ricky Pearsall. Ayuk is still out. I still have an immense amount of respect for Derek Stingley. What we saw on Thursday or I don't know, was it Monday? Was more so a testament to how good Jackson Smith and Jigba is and not to how bad Derek Stingley is, right? That's what it was.
Yeah, I mean, I preemptively I was under on JSN for that specific reason.
So was I, dude. I even laddered up a little bit on Cooper Kupp receptions, and it didn't matter. JSN just proved us both. Not that we don't think he's amazing. It's just he's so good that it didn't matter.
Yes. Yep.
Caleb, thank you for the super chat, man. Did you hit on this one earlier? Because we already hit on all of the Bills. I think we answered his question. I just wanted to make sure we acknowledged it.
Oh, yeah. Appreciate that. Buffalo, honestly, I don't think you have to do much with them if you don't want to. They're not a key to the slate for me. James Cook is the one guy that I'm going to force in, and if I have some room. You never can go wrong with Josh Allen because he, similar to Justin Fields only in this, he has something that's pretty unique. He can score 2 or 3 touchdowns on the ground at quarterback, and that is a rarity given the slate.
Without question. Smeet, I'm ready to be hurt by Fields again. Me too, brother. You know what? The great thing about DFS and us doing these shows, we can commiserate together. We'll celebrate together, and we'll commiserate together. So join us Tuesday morning, 10 Eastern, the NFL First Look show for Week 9. Ben, I'm sure we'll have some words.
Yeah, I will say, if Fields gets benched today for Brady Cook, that's a new low, even for the Jets. That would be
he gets benched for Brady Cook.
Brady Cook, I didn't even know was in the league.
No, it's crazy. I got friends and family. They come over every Sunday for the Eagles or every Eagles game. I'm gonna make chicken cheesesteaks out back, maybe buffalo chicken cheesesteaks during halftime on the Blackstone. So I may just tell them to go home if Justin Fields.
Yeah.
Anyway,
yeah, that's fair.
This is where I'm going. I'm going to jam a little bit of Jalen Noel. When I say jam, I mean I don't think the Sims love him that much, so I want some of him. One thing to point out on Jalen Noel last week, Ben, you guys make your own decisions, not financial advice. I will pull this up for my Tails post. Get your thoughts before we move on to the next game. So let me actually see where his prop is because we got it at 30.5. If you one-click this over on Tails, Oh, wow. No, okay. I was going to say K down, but they're giving the alts here. Okay.
Yeah, the alts. 34 and a half.
I was like, oh, shit. But, yeah, look, like 29 and a half is minus 172 now. So
you
can one-click bet all of these. Yeah, look, 36 and a half looks like your traditional prop now. Flips at 37 and a half. Caesars 36 and a half with juice to the O. I'm telling you, this guy's just finishing with nothing. But I still like him. That's with our AI mapping, by the way. It just pulled this from the image, and you click tail, and it loads it straight into your sports book of choice. Last week, though, Ben, he got fewer routes than Higgins, 33 to 26, but he was targeted on 27% of routes run, 9% for Higgins, who had 0 receptions. Now, it's only 1 week, I get it, but Berrios ran 26 routes, non-factor, 1 reception, minus 5 yards. It's just, to me, one of these spots where if you watch that game, if you guys watch that game, it felt like, and like, I'm no like immense talent evaluator. I'd rather go off of the numbers and volume. It felt like Jalen Noel was by far the most talented guy out there last week after Collins went down.
Yeah, I mean, people are very bullish on him. For me, it's pretty simple. I think it's pretty random of where that's distributes.
Fair too.
But the ownership seems like it's also pretty flat amongst them. So I'll just go with Noel because I do think he has the best chance. If he was 20% and Higgins was 2%, I would roll the dice a lot more often, but it doesn't seem to be the case right now.
By the way, I take back what I said. We are getting a little bit more of him now than we were earlier in the day, about 12%. Fine with that. You don't need to jam him. You don't need to do anything crazy. That still gets us 2x the field. I'm fine with that. I assume you're fine with that too, and getting around the field on guys like Higgins.
Yep, I'm fine with that. I'll probably have some for sure.
Yeah. Again, it just allows you to get some more expensive options. You know, that's all. Cleveland and New England. I want to throw this over to you. New England's a 7-point favorite. Cleveland's been a very different team at home than they have on the road. And Dylan Gabriel, man, like it's been a rough go. This is I think it's a really good New England team right now on both sides of the football. I don't really have anything here for Cleveland.
No, neither do I. I'll give my always Jerry Jeudy at some point will turn these targets into better targets, but you could say that any week and it's very nearly impossible to decipher. So he could pop into a lineup or two for me, nothing outside of large field tournaments. I don't want to chase the Judkins output. I don't like the spot for Cleveland.
No, especially because Judkins is not involved in the passing game right now. That hurts, right? That takes
like
away
zero
a lot.
Involved.
0. Yeah. Like pretty we have 10% Judy, 8%. Okay. See that right there? 10% Judy, 8% Browns. That's fine. I'm okay with getting some $4,100 Judy. Not a lot of people are going to play him. Like you said, Ben, 2 plays can be all the difference. He can do stuff after the catch. The Flip Jones. The Sims has saved my profitability this year. 4 deep sweats this year as well. Hell yeah, man. Love it. Soon we're gonna turn those sweats into a win. It's got to happen one of these days. How about the Patriots, Ben? Interest here?
Not really. I mean, Diggs, I think, is fine.
Me too.
Other than that, though, I still respect Cleveland's defense. I think this is going to be an underwhelming game. If you told me just gut feel of all the 7-point teaser pieces, who's the most likely to lose, I would say New England. I think that this could be a very competitive game. So I'm not really there. But yeah,
I like
Diggs
New England
is.
A lot.
Oh, do you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not betting this game, but if I did, I would take the points.
The only reason is because I look at Drake May compared to Dylan Gabriel, and I just see wild talent discrepancy there. And then I look at both teams, and both of them have really good defenses. So it's like when both have good defenses, but one has a quarterback that's light years ahead of the other one. To me, that moves the needle enough for me. But I get where you're coming from. I do. Morzy, great talk about San Fran really doing a poor job this week. Dude, Christian McCaffrey, as we pointed out, we mentioned Derek Stingley, we mentioned Pearsall being out. I don't really have much love for Jennings. If you want to get to some Kittle, fine. But they've really been, I mean, last week they kept him into block quite a bit. You want to get to Kittle, fine. But I don't know, dude. There wasn't much else I had to say on San Francisco this week. I don't have much of them.
No, I mean, if I had something to say, I would have said it. I like McCaffrey. I'm not going to waste time just to waste time. That's what you can get all this on the tools anytime you want. That's why take advantage of them. Go to the data hub and you can see all the nitty gritty of every team. But to me, McCaffrey against that defense for volume is the only real thing I'm interested in.
Yeah, we have the top stacks tool as well. We have the
Absolutely.
boom bust tool as well. The projections, the ownership. It's not just the sims. It's the single lineup sims and all of that stuff. And I told you earlier, you can get a free month, man. We try and cover as much as we possibly can here on this show in the hour and a half that we have. And some games we're just going to spend longer on than others because we think they're more important. To wrap this one up, though, yeah, I'll have some Judy, some Diggs. Maybe I might have a couple in like 150 spots, a little bit of Drake May because I don't think anyone's going to want to go there, right? It could just be a spot where we saw with like Detroit against Cleveland and Detroit. That could be possible, but aside from that, Ben, I'm pretty out on this game. But I do have some pieces, not a total fade.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's a game that the Dolphins, as much as I've kind of railed that I think they've basically quit, they still have some pieces from a DFS standpoint that could be useful, and it is a game indoors against an Atlanta team. Their defense has really stepped up this year, and that's why they're the rightful favorite. But I don't know. I had floated the idea of going to Tua with all the cheap quarterbacks. I'm not going to end up doing that. I just can't. Waddle, though, and Achane are still playable.
I like, by the way, when I said no, I was talking about the previous game, but
so I thought you might have been, but then you switched the thing. So I
was trying to do like a seamless segue there. You know what I mean?
Well, I didn't seem to,
that's okay. We're still getting our sea legs under this self-production here.
Honestly, you know whose fault this is? He's going to catch a stray, and it's not his fault. It
was popping in threw me off as well.
I was like, what is that noise? And then I screwed everything up. So
it's on Greg.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
That's what I'm
Greg's
saying.
coming up next, by the way, live before lock. Chris Spags, Greg Ehrenberg taking you all the way up to 1. Stick around for that. I tell you all the time, too, even if you're just you're building lineups, you have to do stuff. You can't sit in one spot for 3 straight hours. Pop the AirPod in or whatever you're used to listen. Throw it on in the background. Make sure you're listening to those guys. Some great insight coming up next. And you'll have some important injury reports. This was going to be my segue. Actually, that's not true. It's just off the top right now. Drake London's questionable. And I think he's going to play, but he's questionable in this game. I love Bijan already. There's no doubt I'm getting the Bijan Robinson. That's happening. It's really hard not to. The guy is an absolute stud. It looks like it's going to be Kirk Cousins, Ben, and then maybe Drake London. Tyler Algier is also questionable. So while I assume those guys play and we assume it's going to be Kirk Cousins, there are a lot more moving parts right now for the Atlanta Falcons than there were when you and I discussed this game on Tuesday.
Yeah, I mean, certainly Bijan we know is going to be heavily involved. He's got everything going for him, starting with that he might be the best player in the league. He is that good. Now, for me, where it gets tricky, okay, if London sits, which I'd say he's going to play, but say he sits, how much do I change what I wanted to do to get Mooney or Pitts in there? Also, of course, the quarterback situation. Then this is something that now we're getting real dangerous. If Drake London plays, who the hell's going to play Drake London with this news? Like, do you think anyone's going to do that?
Definitely.
You think people will do that? See, I feel like he'll be very underowned if he plays.
Really?
Yeah, because everyone's waiting around. Like, if you have built your lineups so far today, you're not playing Drake London. There's a lot of people
build their lineups already and they're fully finished before the injury reports come out. They might not even know Drake London's questionable.
Oh, I mean, there's a big Q tag. Those things matter. Those giant red letters.
Right.
People are like, all right, well, I'm not playing him.
No, you're right.
I'll be interested to see how popular London is. That's all I'll say.
Here's what I'll say, dude, is that if Kirk Cousins, like, are we looking at him as a significant one game downgrade to Michael Penix Jr.? No.
Look at the line. The line, it's all fine.
Yeah. So what about some Cousins stacks is my question. I mean, he's dirt cheap against Miami's defense, dude.
I don't know about all that.
Okay.
If I'm going to I guess for me, when I'm punting at quarterback, I'm punting with guys that can run.
Yeah, that's also true. But he's $4,400. So
I know. I just rather play Hundley.
What's that?
I'd rather play Hundley.
Okay, fair. If London is out, do you go to the Moonies and the Pitts?
I'm not going to jam them, but yes, they would get a significant boost. It just would further consolidate that Bijan is going to have a monster game, but he's going to do that regardless.
What I'll probably end up doing is I might have some Cousins, but I could see myself going like Bijan Mooney or Bijan Pitts without a quarterback there.
Also can do that. Yep.
I think that's very viable as a 7-point favorite, right? And a pretty significant implied total. So I just want exposure to Atlanta. I don't really care how I get it past Bijan. I think that's the best way for me to put what I'm doing with Atlanta. Just let me get some Atlanta plays, even if it's to Atlanta without Cousins, perfectly fine by me. You already mentioned Miami. Tua Tagovailoa. I mean, you got to keep that guy away from the podium, man. Seriously. You keep him away from the podium like you need to keep a crack addict off of Skid Row. It is not a place he belongs right now. To say that you're short and you can't see above the offensive line is why you did not target your best receiver is a unbelievable. Yeah,
it's not a good look. That's not it.
It's bad. I like Devon Achane today. I will say though, I threw an insane long shot dart at Jalen Wright to score this week at 16-1 boosted. Mike McDaniel keeps talking about how phenomenal of a couple weeks he's had, and they want to get him more involved. Ollie Gordon's been terrible. This also might be a game that blows out, so you get garbage time there, and they finally get Jalen Wright involved. He's also been involved in trade rumors. So I don't think it's enough for me to get away from Achane. He's just too good of a player. But I have a fun little sprinkle on an anytime touchdown bet on Jalen Wright.
I tried that like 4 weeks ago with him, and he didn't enter the game.
Good, you got voided. That's my hope. If it's not out there, it gets voided.
That's the ceiling. But yeah, listen, I'm not going to push back. I said Achane and Waddle. That is it for me.
Me too. But they're actually pretty decent plays this week, as bad as Miami's been.
Yeah. Yes.
Tampa and New Orleans. Let's move forward to this one. Get your thoughts on Tampa. Dude, no Evans, no Godwin, no Bucky. So you got Rashad White, you have Emeka Egbuka, you have Tez Johnson, you have Cade Otton. I don't need to read too far into this one. Maybe you have more nuanced thoughts than I do here, but it's not that crazy to me to say that I just want to have some White, some Otton, some Egbuka, some Baker, and a little bit of Tez. Like that's really just where I'm at. I have an odd amount of respect for New Orleans in that both of us don't think they're terrible. They're just like your typical kind of sub-average team, but they're not the Jets. They're not the Titans. That's not who they are, and it'd be unfair to lump them into the same category. But Baker coming off a bad week, I still like Baker Mayfield quite a bit, and Rashad White and Egbuka. All of these guys to me, especially Cade Otton at a cheap price point, all of them super viable today.
Definitely. Tampa has shown, and it's a credit to Baker, these injuries do not deter them, from the offensive line to Mike Evans going down.
Yep.
Even when Egbuka was hurt, they find ways to move the ball. They'll move the ball against the Saints, and it'll be
a lot of that last week was just bad throws by Baker.
Yeah, I mean, listen, at some point it takes your toll, but also consider opponent. The Lions are really good, I think at least. So New Orleans is a little more reasonable. This is a tough division road game, though. Those are never easy. I won't have as much Baker as you, but I will have a healthy amount of Tampa in my pools from White to Otton. Egbuka is fine. I think his price point's efficient. I'm still getting used to him as a straight alpha, but he's certainly justified it so far this year. And then, yeah, Tez in those lower ranges. He's with Shaheed on the other side of this game, who I do like as well.
Okay, we'll get to that. Faceless Man. And by the way, I saw the other comment saying, love the content. Appreciate you, man. Good morning. Can you guys be honest? In the Sims Optimizer, is it hard to learn how to use and hard to get lineups out of the tool and into the lineups? I'm not tech savvy. No, absolutely not. Greg's done some awesome stuff with this. Greg, I don't know. You can nod or shake your head or even respond to him in chat if you have a second, because Greg's waiting here in StreamYard. Don't we have a video I think Josh did on the entry build or the entry manager, it's very easy, man. Like we've made it really, really easy to do. So
I
Greg,
use it. That's the only thing I use it. And I am an adamant hand builder, all of that stuff. And I still do some of that. I just have incorporated this into my process and it's seamless. It absolutely is made for any type of player, not just I need to play 150.
Exactly. And that's why with the link join, like the link below where you can sign up with the books, you can get it for $5-10, the core package and enter still like the quarter arcades and stuff. You don't have to be playing high stakes. So thanks, Greg. Appreciate that. By the way, we're going to smash that 700 likes. I told you we're at 613 with 5 minutes to go.
Okay.
I'm just letting you know.
We'll see. I was right on pace.
You got to rally the troops. We get good people around these ways.
We have the best. I will say that. We do have the best.
I'll go back to Olave.
Sure.
Shahid's fine. They're talking about potentially trading him, by the way. I don't know. I have an Alvin Kamara prop that I posted over on Tails that I like this week. Probably won't have a ton in DFS. Pretty much around the field right now. Perfectly fine with that. Rattler's probably not going to be a guy I get to solely because, and maybe I should. Tampa's secondary, they are kind of a pass funnel. Maybe I should reevaluate and get a little bit of Spencer Rattler this week.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with Rattler. If you want to punt there, but again, he's behind some of these other quarterbacks. I like the one-off pass catchers. We did miss a super Avi, friend of the show. Apologies. We did miss this super chat. Sorry, we're juggling. I also, if you can clarify in chat, I don't really understand it. What wide receivers pair with Bijan, Taylor, and Javonte? I mean, they don't really rule out much. I guess I wouldn't really love over there to run Pittman with Taylor, but you could run Sutton with Javonte if you wanted. You certainly could run a pass catcher with Bijan. And then if you're crossing games, the other sides of those games, I think, have a lot of Waddle with Bijan and, looking at the Dallas pass catchers with Javonte if you want to go that route.
Yep. For sure. Thanks as always, Avi.
Yeah.
You want to move on to Dallas, Denver?
Yeah, this is a good game.
Yep. And anything we miss, guys, by the way, like especially with injury news coming out, Greg and Spags, that's why you stick around for these guys as well. We try and cover everything, but we're not always going to get everything in an hour and a half. This could be a 4-hour show, Ben, if we had the time and didn't have lineups of our own. Dallas and Denver. All right. We had a super chat from Mike earlier. Mike H. Good luck, guys. Thanks, man. And is Dak viable? In an odd way, yes. I think he's going to be low owned. We just saw what Jackson Dart did last week with much less talent. Dak's not exactly a mobile quarterback, but Dart threw for 3 touchdowns. This is the spot I wanted to ask you about. You, Ben, specifically. I'm having a real tough time figuring out what I want to do with Dallas because on one hand, I'm like, all right, this Denver defense should be better than they've been. But then on the other hand, it's like Denver's given up some pretty big games this year and to some underwhelming opponents. Should we be considering some Dak stacks given the talent that he has in this offense?
Yeah. It's not as simple as basketball, so take this for what it's worth. But many a times in basketball, you see, they say it all the time, great offense beats good defense. And there is some of that with the Cowboys. Like, I truly believe that Dak will move the ball on anyone right now. It may not be always pretty or even efficient. The way Dallas is constructed, Dak is not getting shut down volume-wise against anyone, even a road start in Denver. So for that, yes, I do think that Dak to Lamb is a pairing you can make, and you have Javonte as well if you want to change it up. But it's a 50-point total and a competitive spread. Is London actually out? I will see. That would change things if that's true, but we'll confirm that. The Cowboys are still in play even with a tough matchup.
Yeah, man, I'm with you. I think you mentioned the most important part. It's a 50-point total and a 3.5-point spread.
I can't believe Drake London's not playing. That changes things.
Is it confirmed?
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, he's out.
Oh, shit.
Greg and Spags, they have a lot to cover now. That's gonna be fascinating.
Hey, boys, got your hands full. We have an awesome data team, by the way, that they see this news immediately. I guarantee you they're already working on updating this. So what I usually do is I wait till 12 Eastern, and that's when I start really digging in. That's when I'm going to go upstairs, see the kids real quick for the next 30 minutes. Hopefully my wife's got some lunch on the table. And I'm kidding. I'm not. She will. Great. She's great. But
get them cheese sticks.
Then I'm going to come down once we get that update. And we're going to have a lot more to talk about. So I'm with you on the Dak spot. I don't love Javonte here. Just, but I would get to some. I don't want to fade Dallas altogether is what I'm saying.
No. And yeah, Kyle was mentioning getting some new guys, snaps on the defensive side. The Broncos still have some decent infrastructure, and maybe getting some new faces on that defense can help them. But yeah, for me, both sides. And then I'll keep this very simple. I like Bo Nix today. I like Sutton a lot. Jeff Williams, friend of the show, was saying he's got one lineup in the main event today, the 1-1-1-1. What stack would you go with? I think if you're going crazy, I think you would want to look to Fields. But if you want one that I think's got a pretty good floor, I don't hate Bo Nix and Sutton. I'm also in that contest, and right now I'm looking like I might have Bo Nix in there. Not guaranteed, but I certainly might.
Okay. I nothing against that, man. That's why this game has a 50-point total, because Dallas is the best DFS team in the league right now.
Yes.
Because of the offense and the defense.
They are built to only play one way, and it's the optimal way for DFS.
Exactly. So I'm with you on Sutton. I'm always on Sutton, though. So you guys know, what difference does that make? Knicks, I'll get to a little Troy Franklin, but I'm not enthralled with any of these kind of, tertiary. Troy Franklin, Marvin Mims, those type of guys. Only other guy I'll mention here before we get to our final game and hand this over to the boys is J.K. Dobbins. I think he might be slept on here. J.K. Dobbins is still the clear lead back in this offense. R.J. Harvey hasn't exactly acquitted himself well outside of really one game. If Dobbins does handle the bulk of the load this week at 5,800 against this Dallas defense that has been carved up day over day, I actually think you might want to get to a little bit of Dobbins. That would be the one spot I'd mention that we haven't talked about yet.
Sure. I actually am probably going to hedge that with he is looking like an anytime touchdown scorer parlay.
Ooh, I like that.
Me. And I don't know if I'll get to the deep running back situations. It's funny. Chat just said this, and then we can move on. Mims is the type of guy to burn Dallas. I know that's the least scientific thing I've ever heard. I agree with that. He is just the absolute type of guy to catch like a 70-yard bomb today. Dallas is going to give up some plays through the air. I really believe that.
The Dallas secondary blows, man.
They have no players. They legitimately have nobody left, and they weren't good to begin with.
Both starting safeties are out. Trayvon Diggs is out, but that actually may be a net positive for Dallas.
That's always a weird situation when it's like they were horrible and now everyone's hurt, but that might actually help them.
Yeah, addition by subtraction.
Because it can't get much worse.
Jeff, playing one lineup in 1,100, who's the stack you would go with? I'm playing Chase Smith and Bijan for sure. Dude, I don't know. Fields? No. I'm not going to tell you to do that.
I mentioned this a little earlier. I think it's Fields if you want to be crazy, and for me, probably Knicks or Daniel Jones, who we're about to talk about.
Yeah, I can tell you now, I don't have anything that I like from Tennessee today. If you wanted to go with any of these guys, go for it. Ayman or DK, whatever. It's just I'm thoroughly uninterested in this offense right now. Yeah. I don't think the juice is worth the squeeze now that the value is opening up in other spots. This is a Colts or nothing spot for me.
Unlike a lot of the games we talked about, this game would be shocking if it was close. Like the Colts are a massive favorite, and they should be. So Jonathan Taylor, I mentioned he's minus 400 to score, like plus 270 Loughy to not score. Tyler Warren, Pittman, Daniel Jones, the Colts defense. I don't think I'll get to the next level options for the Colts. There's going to be a lot of touchdowns to go around. This is just really working backwards of how much do you need to get there and the distribution of touchdowns. Because you do need to run. Like Jonathan Taylor is going to have a good game today, but a good game at 9,500 is not useful. You need a great game. You need a monster game. And he should have opportunities, but he also might just have a good game. So that's really what you're weighing, unlike most teams.
Yep. Inactives today include London, Matt Milano, Shedeur Sanders. Schefter didn't mention Kincaid on the actives, but if he mentioned Milano on the inactives, I would assume that Kincaid is active. I don't know. Spags, you guys will have that coming up. I'm just looking at a single tweet here. Brees Hall's in, Taylor. Trey Hendrickson is in too. That's not that would have made Fields a lot better if Hendrickson was out. Algier is in. He spelled that wrong. Adam, you got to get right, dude. Swift is in and Joker's in, all that good stuff. I'm with you on Indianapolis, though. Taylor, Warren. I love Pittman. There's one guy I want to get a little more of, and that's Josh Downs. They've said that they were trying to get him the ball more. He's $4,700 as a 14.5-point favorite. This offense is tough to really peg behind Jonathan Taylor because they can all have decent games, but the ceiling games are tough. Maybe this is the Josh Downs game, and I'm happy to get on board with that. That'll do it for us. Follow Ben at JazzRazBets, myself at Loughy_D on Twitter. Of course, if you're not following us on Tails and the fellas who are coming up next, go ahead and do so. Everything's free over there. We've got the AI mapping, one-click bet, the leaderboard, so much other amazing stuff going on, and we just continue to build. We're pouring a ton of resources, and I'd ask you guys this. Maybe it'll bring, no joke, maybe this will bring you good luck today, doing something good for the fellas here on this channel. If you have the Tails app and you enjoy it, take 5 seconds during the games today while you're watching, right? Pull it up, leave us a 5-star rating. If you have another 5 seconds, leave us a quick review. Goes immensely far for us to try and get, discovery there over on the App Store. So if you don't mind, that would be great. And maybe you'll end up binking and you'll go, this guy was on to something.
I want to see a Millie winner today from the team. I'm feeling it. I think we're going to have one from chat. Don't close the stream, Loughy, and we are going to be in business. So as always, big week ahead. Let's see it.
Love you all. Have a great rest of the day. Let's win ourselves some money, and we will see you back here for the next one. Bye-bye.
Good morning, everybody, and it is the lead-up time to Live Before Lock. I'm once again joined by my friend Chris Spags here. And Spags, I thought that doing an NFL Live Before Lock, getting pushed back, not doing the early morning portion of the show, moving back, I thought I was getting away from the NBA Live Before Lock injury situation where basically every single day for the last, 4 or 5 years, right before starting an NBA show, there's some player that gets ruled out or added to the injury report, which massively changes the slate, and everything that I've worked on in the time leading up to the start of the show became irrelevant. I thought this was a nice reprieve. I got to do an NFL show. I'm like, cool. NFL doesn't have that kind of reporting stuff when it comes to injury news in the same way. Surely that won't happen today. So I've got all my lineups built out here. I've got everything set up real nice in a screen share with all of our updated data. And then 90 seconds before we start, Drake London gets ruled out. So I can't get away from it. I can't get away from the news cycle. I think it follows me. So guys, do us a favor, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Spags, how are you doing this morning?
Well, yesterday, Greg and I did an NBA show, and I got Dominic Barlow, so he got hurt in that game. And I will say for Drake London and the NBA, getting a guy injured before the game starts, I'll take that to the alternative of just losing the money on him along with 45% of the field. But that's NBA, it's NFL. Drake London being out, I mean, this was potentially a massive spot for him going against the Dolphins defense. It's one of the worst in football. It gives up huge, expected points added across everything they're doing, passing, rushing, really whatever you want to do against the Dolphins, you can. And Drake London's a guy who was getting 10 targets a game. So Kyle Pitts going to look better. Darnell Mooney going to look better. And Bijan Robinson, who was already looking super chalky, he's going to get even more of a PPR scam going for himself, most likely with London not being out there.
Projections just updated for us. So I'm going to refresh this on screen here, and we'll isolate by the Atlanta Falcons so we can now look at what our projections are saying for the Falcons. This is going to be my first time looking at our updated projections because all I saw is that they were updated. I didn't take a look at them. So let's see right here on air what it is that they're looking like. And no real surprise here. We've got Darnell Mooney projected the best of any of the wide receivers. We've got Kyle Pitts with a little bit of a bump here at tight end. He's at 14 fantasy points to 12 for Mooney. Look at this new projection on Bijan Robinson, Spags. 27.05 fantasy points. I think this is the highest we had an individual player projected the entire season that I can remember.
I think Taylor might have been at a level where McCaffrey's been once, at least a part of a week. So I'm with you on that. I really can't recall somebody at 27. And to get a projection this high, I feel like we might be going back to the McCaffrey Panthers days where he was like a weekly 10K play that was always in the mix. I really can't recall anybody being over 27. And you get it. Bijan's been heavily involved in the pass game, and you're vacating over 10 targets a game. Bijan looks great. And I was already playing a lot of him, but now I'm afraid of how much he'll actually be owned by the field.
Yeah, I'm checking out to see if there are props up for him because now I'm curious what do some of the, yes, we do. We've got some FanDuel props up. So I'm going to read these off to you guys here. I'm looking at it on my phone. Bijan Robinson, I'll let you guess, Spags, if you haven't looked yet. I think this could be a fun way to do it. What would you guess the passing yardage or the receiving yardage prop is for Kyle Pitts?
I just saw Kyle Pitts' projection being pretty high. So I think for Pitts, 57.5.
49.5. 49.5 for Pitts. So now what would you guess it is for Darnell Mooney? A little bit of a tip for you. I'm kind of giving you the answer to some extent here. Based on the props, I think our projection on Mooney could use to be a little bit higher. But Darnell Mooney, what would you guess his receiving yardage prop is?
39.5.
55.5. 39.5 would mean that it should be lower. 39.5 to be pretty low.
Yeah, I'm surprised to see him be that much ahead of Pitts. I mean, projection-wise, Pitts seems to have Mooney beaten out by about 2 in Stokastic data. And Pitts has been a reliable target earner, especially at low ADOTs, which I think will help out Kirk Cousins. I'm not sure he has the ability to stand in the pocket and chuck it downfield. I hope he does. I'm surprised to hear Mooney be that much higher or higher at all, honestly, than Pitts.
And for people who are asking in chat, so I'll come up a couple times, Algier is expected to play. So we had Algier was questionable. We had Penix questionable. We had London questionable. The Penix one a little bit older news at this point, but Kirk Cousins starting a quarterback for the Falcons. Algier, he is in. Drake London is out. So that's what we're touching on right now with some of these updated projections. But yeah, we do have it updated with Algier in here and then London out, which is causing a bump in projections for Kyle Pitts and Darnell Mooney. And then finally, what would you guess Bijan Robinson's receiving yardage prop is?
Okay. So, if those guys only combined have like 90, they have to be giving more towards rushing, I would assume.
Yeah.
72.5.
It is 45.5, but his rushing yardage prop is at 91.5. So you're looking at overall total yardage expectancy of somewhere like 135.5 for Bijan Robinson. And then, of course, his touchdown prop must be insane. Yeah, he's minus 240 to score a touchdown.
Which is, as Loughy pointed out last show, apparently what Derrick Henry is as well, which I don't get that one as much. But yeah, for Bijan, I mean, you're not getting a lot of value on the anytime TDs, but certainly that seems like a high likelihood. I honestly, the total seemed a little bit lower than I thought. Like in my mind, I thought we might be cresting towards like 140, 150 with maybe the markets will bid him up a little bit more. But he's had massive upside in games where everybody's been healthy. Now you're talking about an awful defense where nobody's healthy or very few guys who have produced are healthy. I like the overs on anything with Bijan this week.
And then he is also plus 230 to score multiple touchdowns for this game is Bijan Robinson. So all that put together, you get a 27 fantasy point projection on Bijan. And then Darnell Mooney. I was combining them together. I was trying to say Kyle Pitts and Darnell Mooney, and I just said Kyle Mooney, who I
was a great comedian.
SNL, I think he's it. Am I correct? Is he on SNL, Kyle Mooney?
Yeah, he was. I don't know if he still is, but he's done some weird projects. Like there's one where he did a fake Saturday morning kids show where there's like an underlying plot line of a guy, I think, committing murders or something. It's like he does a lot of really creative things, but definitely not somebody that a lot of DFS players will have top of mind.
Yeah, probably not somebody who's going to. I mean, I know the Falcons are beat up. I don't know how many receiving yards he's going to have, but anyway, I was going to say Kyle Pitts and Darnell Mooney instantly become guys who are pretty high priorities for me on the slate, considering their price points and what some of those props are. But I want to know from you, outside of Pitts and Mooney, is there somebody else, and obviously Bijan Robinson, is there somebody else who is going to be able to pass catches for the Falcons that we should potentially be looking at as a contrarian option? Our ownership should also be updating in a second as well. So I'm going to check that to see where the ownership is on these guys. But outside of the core guys we talked about, who else, if anybody, should we be considering from Atlanta?
I mean, I would think Casey Washington gets a jump up right away as well. He was already playing a meaningful amount of snaps. The amount of time that Mooney was out there basically playing the Mooney role with less success, only a 14% target rate. But he's been a guy they've been willing to play out wide. They also can move him in the slot a little bit. Haven't done that a ton this year with only 3 slot targets for Casey Washington. But I think he would be the next guy up with Ray McLeod no longer on the team. I guess now he's on the Giants roster technically. Casey Washington seems like he'd be the guy. But, I think this is one of those things where a lot of times in DFS, we tend to try to look for the guys behind the guys. And in reality, I think the projection bump, for Mooney, for Pitts is so pronounced that those guys should just be more of a factor for you. I mean, obviously Bijan as well, as we talked about, like he's the guy without a cousin stack. With a cousin stack, you should get into a good amount of lineups. But I think cousin stacks with Mooney and Pitts, that's one way to save money on a slate where you do want to pay up a lot. You add RB or add receiver for Jamar Chase, Stephen Egbuka. If you want to find ways to save money, Atlanta's now a pretty reasonable stack to do that with.
Yeah, ownership not quite updated, but when it is, I'll be refreshing it on screen. I've also got the FanDuel projections on screen right now for you guys as well. So you'll see Mooney at 6K, project for 10 fantasy points. We've got Pitts at 5,300, project for 11 fantasy points. And then you've got Bijan Robinson up to a 24 and change at 10K over on FanDuel. Let's start answering some of your guys' questions. And let's see, all right, so they answered Jeff's question last on the last show. So from Anthony Masilli, favorite 3 stacks and favorite single entry stack for DraftKings, and thanks. So we'll make some, like general assumptions that Pitts and Mooney are both going to be pretty popular. I think Bijan Robinson maybe becomes a little bit more popular than Jonathan Taylor now as well. So we'll just make those general assumptions unless you disagree strong with that on the Falcons as we answer some of these questions. But Spags, what are your 3 favorite stacks for today? And then we'll talk about a favorite single entry stack.
Sim exposure wise, it's coming up for me, Bo Nix, Daniel Jones, and a pretty close grouping of Hurts, Huntley, and Fields. I will put Fields up there. I am much like Loughy, and I think even more than Loughy, willing to sacrifice myself at the altar of Justin Fields one more time because the matchup is so soft. And, for Fields, I said it last week and it didn't work out well at all. But the rubber is meeting the road for him, and now there is nobody that you can bench him for. So I would throw Fields in, but for single entry, I think Daniel Jones trying to go that way would probably make the most game theory sense because I imagine there'll be a lot of Jonathan Taylor in single entries.
Yeah, so my last run of the Sims, which is not quite taking into account the new Atlanta information, but I don't think it's going to change my 3 favorite stacks. It is Bo Nix, Baker Mayfield, and Tyler Huntley. For single entry, Spags, I'm kind of leaning towards saying Kirk Cousins right now, just because if he has a good game, a couple things are happening. Number one, he sure as shit is not running the football, right? There's no real rushing upside in Kirk Cousins. But if there's a big Kirk Cousins game, it is hard to think that some combination of Robinson, Pitts, and Mooney are not also going to have good fantasy games. Mooney and Pitts particular at their price point. So I love the stacks where if the quarterback has a big game, we could feel really confident in certain players in his offense having big games. And just with some of the injuries there, I think the targets are generally going to be pretty concentrated. So I like Kirk Cousins at a pretty cheap price point on both FanDuel and DraftKings. I know this is a DraftKings specific question, but just because of the high likelihood that if he plays well, Mooney and Pitts also play well, I like having that kind of path, having a ceiling lineup.
Yeah, I was prioritizing Kirk Cousins before, but now with this going in, the sim is definitely giving me a lot more naturally, and I definitely want to be there. And I like that take too. I do think that, again, the stack of Cousins plus Mooney plus Pitts, it is a very well projected, very cheap stack. It honestly might be one of the best combos of value in a full stack that we've had the entire year.
Let's see what we've got. Avi wants to know, can you enter Bijan, Taylor, and Javonte into a sim for FanDuel and see what that lineup looks like? Yeah, absolutely. So I've got the single lineup sim right here. We'll go over to FanDuel. And, oh, by the way, ownership just updated. So we'll run this lineup for Avi, and then we'll go back and we'll look at some of the updated ownerships. So Avi wanted us to put in Bijan, Jonathan Taylor, and Javonte Williams. Okay. So you got three very expensive running backs here. I'll put this on 0% randomness and just press complete the lineup and see what shows up around it. All right. So it ended up with Huntley at quarterback. I don't have any issue with Huntley naked today. I don't know about you, Spags, but he is so cheap. There's some rushing upside there. So I think that Huntley, you know what I think Huntley profile is really similar as? The Marcus Mariota slate from when Jaden Daniels first got ruled out. We're like, Mariota didn't necessarily light the world on fire that game, but he was in a lot of the top lineups just because at, I'm pretty sure he was min-priced that slate. He's able to score like 17 or 18 fantasy points. I think there's a very realistic, similar scenario for Tyler Huntley today. So if you are going to go and try to save salary quarterback, I don't have an issue with a naked Huntley. But anyway, Abby, the rest of that lineup, Huntley, you already know the running backs, and then Devonta Smith, Rashid Shaheed, Jalen Noel, Kyle Pitts showed up. I don't have any issue with this lineup at all. I thought it might be a little tough to fit in all those running backs, but I think this looks reasonable for a FanDuel lineup as long as you don't mind the naked quarterbacks bags.
Yeah, I mean, I don't love naked quarterbacks in general because, you know, you are normally going to be beaten out if that QB has enough upside by at least one stack partner with it. And if Huntley, Zay Flowers is still there, Mark at a reasonable price tag, Mark Andrews could spike. You could maybe get the Huntley, Derrick Henry. So I would still try to correlate, but I agree, you know, for some amount of your portfolio, especially if you're 150 maxing, Huntley naked probably allows you to pay for all the stuff. I would just make sure you're using most of the salary, I feel like, if you're playing Huntley naked.
All right. So not really a DFS related question, but Plan B Smoothies. Hey, Greg, did you take a blue chew? Something different. I don't know what is different. I do like the idea where it's just like, Greg, you look different today. Do you have an erection? Like that's just where Plan B Smoothie goes to. So I would like a little bit more context to what you think is different. I would say that I recently took a shower, but I've usually more recently took a shower when I'm doing the show at 9:15. So, I don't know. Is that a compliment? I don't know.
Well, I think you're saying you have like a maybe high testosterone. You're really presenting in a manly fashion as opposed to, I don't know, what you ever usually give up. I don't know what he's inferring from the first part of what you are normally and then what he's getting today.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I guess it could be a negative too, because in one way you could look at it that way. It's like, boy, Greg, you look like you're filled with testosterone. The other angle goes, boy, Greg, you look impotent. So it's, I don't know. I don't know what the implications are. But
look like you're getting scammed by a placebo right now because your penis didn't work well enough is what he was actually trying to imply.
Thank you for the super chat. Nonetheless, though, it is very much appreciated. Let's go back and look at some ownership now because we do have that updated here. So I could go into the data hub and look at that updated ownership now for the Atlanta guys because I'm curious to see what that's looking like. And all right. Oh my God. Specs, look at this. We've got Bijan Robinson projected for 50% ownership now. 18% to
great play.
Yeah. 20% to Mooney. Here's my initial thought. Play Bijan Robinson in cash games. Play him in tournaments as well. 50%, super high mark, but he's still certainly a viable option. But here's my first thought of looking at this ownership. Even more so, we got that question before about single entry. Cousins double stack with Pitts and Mooney is tremendous leverage off of an uber popular Bijan Robinson. Because let's say Bijan Robinson just isn't the guy who scores the touchdowns. Maybe Kirk Cousins throws 3 touchdowns. One of them goes to Pitts, one of them goes to Mooney or something like that. Falcons passing game, and it's not like, Pitts 18% owned. You got 20% ownership going to Mooney. So it's not like these guys are unowned, but it is such lower ownership than what Bijan has.
Yeah, it definitely. I mean, that's always the thing when you see a lot of ownership going to the RB, just considering the passing stack a little bit more. You frankly could also try to go the stack on top with Bijan, I think, and then probably it's a little more interesting to put in a Dolphins bring back, but I suppose you could play it that Falcons just kind of boat race them. But it's tough, man, with Bijan at that ownership. Like, he's got McCaffrey level, I would say an expectation of PPR usage, intended touch rate and all that, but he's got a much better matchup. Miami's just so bad. And, McCaffrey has, tough spot. Jonathan Taylor is pretty expensive relative to Bijan. I'm not going to be away from Bijan at that 50% ownership, but at a certain point, maybe just think some other options for tournaments a little bit more.
Yeah, to be clear, I'm certainly going to be playing him as well, but it's just kind of more reason to consider some of those leverage stacks on the passing game for Atlanta. For FanDuel, let's see what the ownership's looking like on FanDuel. We've got Bijan, still very popular, but maybe a little bit more reasonable. 37% on Bijan over on FanDuel. Mooney is 15.5% owned. And then Kyle Pitts, 21.2% owned. So that's what it's looking like over on FanDuel for the updated ownership now. A couple more super chats came in, and then I'm also going to check the Stokastic Discord in a second. So if you guys are a Stokastic sub and you have a question for myself and or Spags, or maybe just for Spags, that's fine as well, then tag me in Discord. I'll be pulling up that in a second here. And if you want to know the best way to get into Discord, simply sign up for any of the packages we have here at Stokastic. All of them come with access to our Discord channel, and we still have our NBA promo running. So if you guys sign up for any of our all access packages with the promo code OKC, you are going to get yourself 20% off. Now you could also just get an NBA monthly sub with the promo code OKC, but being realistic and knowing what we're doing a football show here, Spax, so I think people would be more interested in the all access package, which comes with access to NFL, to NBA, to NASCAR, to MMA, and all the sports we cover here at Stokastic. So if you're looking to get in, 20% off, promo code OKC, take advantage of. We also have our link join offer, where for each one of our partners you sign up for here on screen, you get yourself 1 free month of Stokastic Sims, and the page to sign up that is also down below in the YouTube description box. Next super chat that we have here, it is from Stoic Monk. He wants to know favorite players at each position for FanDuel and DraftKings. Yeah, so let's go the same way we've done this on some of the NBA shows, Spags. Why don't you cover the DK players? I'll cover the FanDuel players. Who do you like the most overall at each position, starting at quarterback for FanDuel? For DraftKings. Then I'll answer for FanDuel.
For DraftKings, getting Bo Nix the most right now, 18%, and that's a pretty big leap ahead of where Daniel Jones is at number 2 at 11.
Yeah, so for me over on FanDuel, I am going to go with... Yeah, I'm going to say Bo Nix. I was kind of inclined to throw out Kirk Cousins, but he's just somebody who I like as a contrarian. I don't know what I want to say is my favorite quarterback necessarily. Running back. Which direction you want to go at running back now?
I mean, have you heard of this guy, Bijan Robinson? I feel like he's a player we haven't heard too much about this week. And now on Sunday, when he's losing his really important teammate, you're not going to hear much. But yeah, 73% Bijan, Fields at 46. So a massive stand there. And everybody else seemingly has come down because of the Bijan projection being, I would say, unfadable at this point.
Yeah, I'm also going to go with Bijan Robinson at running back. Wide receiver for you on DraftKings.
At wide receiver, I'm getting Devontae Smith the most, 47%, more than the Fields expected, 33%.
I'm going to say Mooney over on the FanDuel side of things. I also bet Mooney for over 39.5 receiving yards earlier, which I feel really good about that, considering that London is now officially out. But I also like him a good amount for DFS. And yeah, that would go for FanDuel as well as DraftKings. But Darnell Mooney, one of my favorite value options on the slate. And I'll also, for tight end, same situation. It's going to be Kyle Pitts for me at tight end. What are you going with at tight end as your favorite option?
Tight end, it is actually now Kyle Pitts, though he and Dalton Schultz both about 45% exposure. So Schultz, I think, is going to move down because of Pitts' projection leaping up so much. But I don't think Schultz is a forgotten man. And I think 2 tight ends also very much in play on the slate.
All right. So there we've got our favorite options at each position. Also turn off the Atlanta filter so all of the other players are showing up on screen right now. Let's see what else we got for super chats. We got one here from Jeff Williams. He wants us to rank White, Hall, and Cook for the 111 on DraftKings. All right, so these 3 running backs bags, and this is going to be for DraftKings purposes. White, Hall, and Cook. Who's 1, who's 2, who's 3?
Seeing Rachaad White. Frankly, all of these guys have come down a little bit more than I would have thought. I think the kind of efforts to get to Bijan now showing the sim, but I've got the most Rachaad White at 15% right now, James Cook at 13, and then Breece a little bit under 10. So it would be Rachaad White.
I'm going to go Rachaad White 1, Breece Hall 2, and then I'm going to go with Cook 3. The big issue with Cook, I guess he's a little bit more modestly priced now at $6,700, is it's still, if I'm going to be spending up at all at running back, I just want to go, like a little bit higher than that. Breece Hall is $600 less expensive than James Cook. Rachaad White is $300 less expensive. They all project relatively similarly, although Breece Hall gets a little bit further back. Once again, $600 cheaper. I think James Cook just a little bit more expensive than what it is that I'm looking to play from him on this slate. So I'm going to go, White 1, Hall 2, Cook 3. It's the exact order you had them listed in. The next question, it is, all right, that answers all the super chats. So going to Discord. I saw I had a couple of notifications from Discord. One is from Stinky Thumbs Arbuckle. This is a Stinky Thumbs Arbuckle.
That's like a 1920s boxer name. Like, Stinky Thumbs went 12 rounds with Floyd Ferguson. I don't know. That's not a good old guy name.
Stepping next into the ring, we got Stinky Thumbs Arbuckle. As we got,
No problem. That was good. You really put in a lot more effort into your improv than I did, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, well, what can you do? So Stinky Thumbs Arbuckle wants to know, is this now a Casey Washington slate? All right, this is not the question I was expecting to be getting today. No.
I don't think it's a Casey Washington slate, but I think when you see this much ownership now flowing to Pitts and to Mooney, it's so dumb the way the DFS works, where it's like, all right, this Bijan Robinson, he's a great play, but how about you go to Mooney and Pitts instead? And it's like, well, people will go to Mooney and Pitts. How about you go to Casey Washington? And it's like, yeah, you are getting theoretically different if you would get him in an Atlanta stack. I would say probably the more likely way to play him, and even then, I'm not sure it's perfect, but you fade Bijan, you put the 2 primary receivers, you add Casey Washington onto that. I think that's one way to kind of say the projection has flowed from Bijan. Maybe you got touchdown equity more moving towards the pass game. But, don't put Casey Washington in everything. Like, play him if you're playing 150 max, 5 to 10%, that's enough. Like, I think the penchant sometimes for people is like to go crazy on these plays. Is you get the forward HS kind of galaxy braining, and you really don't have to do that on most DFS slates too much. Even if he hits, you don't really have to do that too much.
I'd be curious how Stinky Thumbs got his nickname. I don't want to speculate, but I don't know.
He's clicking bad players. That's why he's got.
That's exactly why. But also he's typing with his thumbs.
Yeah, like this.
Einsteinium, is Mason Taylor a good pivot off of the Schultz chalk? So one thing that is really interesting, I'm going to go over to tight end here on DraftKings now, is when I was running sims before the show started, and I still need to rerun sims and update everything just on my own personal end here, but just having the Stokastic data hub up on screen right here, you will see that we now have Kyle Pitts not projecting as well as Dalton Schultz on a points per dollar basis, but before the show started, I was running the Sims bags. I was getting to ungodly amounts of Dalton Schultz. Like, he was showing up in nearly everything. And one thing that is really nice about Kyle Pitts now being added to the mix is this is going to give us just another option who is not Dalton Schultz that shows up a lot in our data. So to get to Einsteinium's question, I do think that Mason Taylor is a viable pivot off of Dalton Schultz for today. But I like the idea also of getting to some more of Kyle Pitts. which was somebody who was not massively on the radar in the same way before. But is Mason Taylor somebody that you're interested in, Spags?
I mean, as somebody that is predisposed to playing some fields today and losing money on that, yeah, I think Mason Taylor looks like a pretty decent option. He's your best projected receiver out of the Jets group. Arian Smith played 50-plus snaps last week, and that was with Josh Reynolds healthy. He's out there running wind sprints right now with under an 8% target per out run rate, but he's not doing a whole lot. Lazard is a professional receiver who has had some red zone targets, which none of the other receivers in that group right now have had, but he's not really a dude. Tyler Johnson's looked okay, but he's also a guy that's playing the least out of that group. So Mason Taylor kind of de facto becomes your Tucker Kraft, I guess, in this offense, your wide receiver one, because the other receivers aren't very legit or not going to play, as much and command targets while doing so. So Mason Taylor, a decent play. And I guess, Greg, I know you are a big National Tight End Day fan. Does it seem odd that we have such concentrated ownership on National Tight End Day, where it does seem like every asshole tight end has a better shot at catching a touchdown, even though I am sure there's no data to support it?
Well, asshole tight end sounds like another Stinky Thumbs Arbuckle reference. So there's that aspect. The National Tight End Day is, I can't imagine there's a single team that is building their game plan. They're being like, look, we think this is a really good matchup for our slot wide receiver, but it's National Tight End Day, so we have to rearrange what our game plan is. This is as much of an important holiday as any of the weird, like Hallmark holidays. If you go on a calendar, Hallmark, some of them have picked up, like Mother's Day, Father's Day, and all that. There are like 200 different Hallmark holidays. This is just one of them now, National Tight End Day. It would behoove you to not build your lineups strictly around the idea that it's National Tight End Day. Also, I'm seeing some people online who are like, oh my God, it's National Tight End Day. I have to make a 7-leg tight end touchdown parlay. No. There's no sort of all of a sudden tight end score more fantasy points because it's National Tight End Day. To your question, the reason I think it's concentrated tight end is we just happen to have some really good value tight ends. We've got Dallas Goedert. There's no A.J. Brown for the Eagles. Kyle Pitts with no Drake London for the Falcons. Dalton Schultz. And there's now no Nico Collins this week for the Houston Texans. So it just, from a value standpoint, it's just common sense where the value is at the tight end spot. I will say this, despite me just ranting on the National Tight End Day nonsense thing, there is good enough value with a few of these guys at tight end that I do think this is one of the stronger double tight end slates we've had this season, though.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the tight ends give you decent value. They project well enough, too, that they're safely out of a lot of receivers. Frankly, this week, if you really want to be a Grinch about National Tight End Day, just maybe take out the tight end and the flex and just roll with that and fully fade. Because I agree with you. Like, I think that the data is going to put you on so much Pitts, so much Schultz, and that's fine, and I get why. Two tight end maybe gets overplayed because people are like really obsessed with this stupid National Tight End Day. And of course, it just means that the king of National Tight End Day, George Kittle, will go for 50 today, and it'll all be moot.
Yeah. And Stinky Thumbs Arbuckle, he got his nickname back in 1932 when he misunderstood National Tight End Day and stuck his thumb so far up his ass that it came out his mouth. So Stinky Thumbs Arbuckle, that's probably the real background of how that nickname came to be.
Eric Lindquist would never.
He'd be singing right now. Pat Jan, I always get his name wrong here, but Pat Gang Swish wants to know who is our top picks at defense. Probably my least favorite thing that exists in all of DFS is defenses and having to really talk about them at all, because generally I make no adjustments to defense. I just kind of roll out whatever the Sims give me. And then however the slate plays out, it plays out. I pay almost no attention to defenses for myself personally. But Spags, do you have any defense takes for this week?
I like the concept of the Browns this week. I think the price tag works well, and I personally am praying for Drake May's downfall. I'm sorry to all the people that are so obsessed with him, but like, it's just, he's running too hot. I strongly believe that, and a good defense maybe is the one to do it. But besides them, it honestly is a pretty flat defense slate, and that's just, again, personal preference and me thinking that what guys do for aggression. Texans seem to be coming up a decent amount. Broncos coming up a decent amount. Bengals, I think, industry-wide coming up a little bit more than in Stokastic data. Those are probably the ones you get the most of, and Browns would be my personal fave.
Well, we found out Lamar Jackson is expected to play in week 9. Cool. I don't believe a single thing that the Ravens tell us right now, though. Not a thing. I've never seen a team retroactively change an injury report, be like, oh, no, just kidding. He actually did less at practice. Yeah, we forgot how much he did at practice. It was actually a different amount that he did at practice than we previously thought. And yeah, whatever the Bears going to do, having to prepare for Tyler Huntley as opposed to Lamar Jackson now. going to make no difference on the outcome of that game that they lied on the injury report. But let's see. Was there any other questions that came into Discord? Yes, one more. This one is from Einsteinium. He wants to know, is Pittman a good pivot off of Tyler Warren? So one thing to keep in mind here, let's see, what is the ownership now on Tyler Warren? Warren's only 13% owned. What's Pittman? There isn't that much different to their ownership. Like Warren's 13% owned, Pittman's 8.5% owned. I think that Pittman is a very reasonable wide receiver option. I think Warren is fine at tight end, although there's a lot of cheaper tight ends that I like more than him. If you like Pittman, play him because you like Pittman. It shouldn't really have anything to do with Tyler Warren's ownership projection because it's not all that high.
Yeah, that's not really the kind of thing that's going to vault you up the field when a guy hasn't owned that much in the first place. Like Pittman's a fine play on his own. I think Alec Pierce has reason to have some credibility as a play, just given the total and the fact that, that's one way that maybe Jonathan Taylor doesn't quite hit his usual apex. But I agree. Like Pittman, he's fine. Play him perhaps more so in stacks when you're fading Taylor, I guess.
And we did just get a projection and ownership update. So I'm just going to check really quick to see if this changed anything with the Falcons. Then I got to really start running my own lineups for myself here. But Falcons now, we've got Pitts and Mooney are closer together in projection. We've got Mooney on FanDuel at 10.35 fantasy points, Pitts at 10.62. Let's see on DraftKings. What did this do to the Atlanta guys? So this will be with, some updated prop information that those have settled a little bit more. Let's see. What do we have for the Falcons? Falcons now coming in at Bijan's still super high. Yeah, the gap is tightened a little bit. We've got Mooney now 12.5 fantasy points, and then Pittman at Pitts at 13.1. So that makes a little bit more sense to me, given what some of the prop projections were. And keep in mind, Mooney does still have higher props than what Kyle Pitts has. But any other general thoughts? And Bijan, his ownership has plummeted from 50% to 48% in this update here. But any thoughts on that projection, or if that changed any of your stance on any of the Falcons stuff, Spags?
I think that'll push back to Dalton Schultz a little bit more then, because he was coming up like 80% in the Sims before the Falcons stuff happened. So I think you might get more Dalton Schultz again, a little bit less Pitts. But I think the same stuff we talked about, the Cousins stack, still very viable. But like the projections are not that high. So if you get the down part of the projection for Pitts and for Mooney, you're talking like 10-ish fantasy points each. That's not going to do a whole lot for you. So yeah, I think the projections will make it a little more reasonable where you're not getting these guys endlessly. And I was getting these guys endlessly before.
And the next question, we got a super chat here that I saw came in from CPA Joe K. He wants to know, is Tyler Huntley viable for a DraftKings single entry high ROI in the Sims? Yes. So I think there's a couple of different ways to talk about this. One thing that I think Spags and I feel a little bit differently about is I am a little bit more in favor of Huntley naked stacks. I don't think that they have to be Huntley without his pass catchers, but I do think that is a pretty good looking lineup that I'm getting to some of. But I want to know from you, Spags, do you think that Huntley is viable in single entry? And who's your favorite pass catcher? Maybe it's even Derrick Henry. I doubt it is, but I'll leave that as an option. Who's your favorite player to stack with Tyler Huntley from the Ravens if you're playing him in a lineup?
I think it would be Zay Flowers. The price tag's cheap enough, and he is a guy that's getting over 7 targets a game, which is I think a pretty decent threshold to look at for guys that you feel like should be your primary stack partner for a guy. But in general, for me, I still would err on the side of stacking. Like I for single entry, you probably have a little bit more. But to me, the whole thing of trying to build lineups is like I'm trying to cut the parlay as much as possible. So I want to get a single stack, a double stack, a triple stack. Try to get a bring back on it if I can. And that's kind of the thing is generally underplayed in the top 1% of lineups. So I tried to do that the most, but certainly I think, the Sim's giving you good data. Like that should be your first and second and third check for what lineups you want to play. Yeah.
So Tyler Huntley, I think he's one of the better points per dollar options on the entire slate. Tyler Huntley, we've got some good value QBs that show up. To show you guys here the value at the quarterback position. We've got Tyler Huntley, 17.82 fantasy points at $4,300. So for reference, see who else is projected around him. So we've got Dak Prescott for 1/10 of a fantasy point more than Tyler Huntley. We've got Caleb Williams projected for 1/10 of a fantasy point less than Tyler Huntley. And these guys are $2,200 and $1,300 more expensive than him. So just from like a points per dollar play, he makes a lot of sense in that kind of situation. Also, I guess we could start going a little bit by position now that things have settled a little bit. We talked about overall favorite stacks, so something that to a degree we've already touched on, but are there any contrarian quarterbacks do you really like getting to for today, Spags?
I mean, I think there's a lot for me on the slate. If we are going to count Fields as one, I would say that he would be the one I'm going to be the most exposed to, because this is just the thing. When nobody wants to play Fields anymore, I'm willing to do it one more week. And I just believe in the matchup more than anything. And the fact that I think at this point, I would hope he has a chip on his shoulder. If the owner says you're the reason that the team is losing games, and he's not the reason, by the way, like he's not good, but he's still throwing, fun fact, higher catchable ball rate than Joe Flacco at a deeper A dot. Like he's doing things that are still okay when he actually throws. He just is seeing pressure on half of his dropbacks. The hope is that he doesn't get there today. Fields will be the one I will cape for the most, but I'm getting a lot of decent ownership on guys. Stroud coming up a little bit more because of how much Schultz comes in. Rattler actually got again this week, and feel like every week I'm willing to play him because the underlying stuff isn't that bad, even though he hasn't hit a ceiling in a real way yet. But Fields is definitely the biggest stand for me.
The thing that really gets me about so apparently Tyrod Taylor, he just has a hurt knee and he's not able to play, but for the team owner, Woody Johnson, to say during the week, which you alluded to, something along the lines of, because he was asked about Aaron Glenn's job security, and paraphrasing, but essentially what Woody Johnson said is that Justin Fields is so terrible that there's no possible way that Aaron Glenn could win football games with him as the quarterback. And what happens? Justin Fields starts again this upcoming weekend, which I've never heard an owner, as like Jerry Jones has said some crazy things about his players and what they do or don't deserve to be paid or stuff like that. I don't remember an owner throwing a player under the bus this hard as Woody Johnson did. And I thought there was no chance that Fields would start. If you're Woody Johnson, don't you at least save that comment for a week that you know Tyrod Taylor could start a quarterback? Like, why do you do it? When Tyrod's down now, Fields still has to be the quarterback. So is it going to impact Fields positively, negatively? Who the hell ends up knowing? I don't hate him as a contrarian quarterback. My preference, though, is to go to Kirk Cousins if I'm going to be contrarian, and also use that as leverage off of Bijan Robinson, which we also got a question related to that in Discord from JEW. He said, for DraftKings single entry, if you're doing a Kirk Mooney pit stack, would you want to play Bijan as well or fade him and run it back with HN? I don't think you necessarily need HN as a run back, but with that said, in lineups, if I'm specifically making a Christian Kirk Cousins,
don't play Christian Kirk this week. He's not playing. He's also not a QB.
Christian Kirk. If you are playing a lineup with Kirk Cousins that you are hand building and doing a double stack, the biggest reason, in my opinion, to do it is to get off of Bijan Robinson in that lineup. So I would do Cousins, Mooney, and Pitts. I would not include Bijan in that lineup.
I'd still be willing to, because so much of the production for Bijan does come from the pass game. I mean, he's getting 5 catches a game, 6.7 targets. Some of the long plays he's broken this year have been receptions. And Kirk Cousins, at this point of his career, I think is mostly going to be a check down merchant. So I think that's good for Bijan. So I'm more willing to do it, but I see what you're saying, because the way that you really win the money is like you're not playing Bijan there and you vault up. There'll be enough people with Cousins plus triple stack. I think that's like the most obvious Cousins stack I think you'll have.
In my defense on Kirk Cousins and calling him Christian Kirk is not also totally inaccurate either. I'm just throwing that out there.
He's a Christian Kirk.
Yeah, exactly. He's open about his religion. There is an accuracy to that. So who's really wrong? Hendog, best FanDuel wide receiver GPP on FanDuel for $5,300 or under. All right, let's pull up the FanDuel pricing, because off the top of my head, I don't remember everybody who's under $5,300. Let's turn off the Falcons filter, sort by some of the top value wide receivers. So it has to be sub $5,300. All right, Jalen Noel is $4,500. I think that he's a viable guy to go to for cheap for sure this week. Who else is under $5,300 though? Io Minor, no thanks. That's a really rough price range. I think it's Noel by default. I just don't see very many guys that like for that cheap on FanDuel. I don't know if you're sorting by some of the FanDuel player projections, Spags, but to me, of all the guys who are under $5,300, he actually said equal to or less. So it could also be somebody at $5,300, but that's Noel for me.
Yeah, Jaden Higgins is 5,300 too. So the other side of the Texans, I wouldn't mind. Ayumador doesn't look that bad, 5,100 on FanDuel. Alan Lazard, if you're going to go with Fields. I feel like it's a joke. Alan Lazard can catch a touchdown today, guys, and it's going to carry you further on FanDuel than it would on DraftKings. Lazard at 4,800 maybe, but I think really the Texans guys are the most appealing, and Ayumador.
Yeah, it's a rough price range, though. If you had given us just a few $100s more, which here's what I'm suspecting is happening here, because it's a very specific number. I think he has hand-built a lineup that's the exact amount of salary he has left for his final wide receiver spot, and that's what the number has to be. If you had a couple $100s more, so do you have a way you could get some salary savings at defense, get a little bit more expensive? Because I don't want to actually leave $800 in the salary on the table to go to Noel. That's why I bring it up. That's what I think is happening, because I don't just want to go to Noel and then you got $800 in salary left on the table. But can you leave, or could you save a few $100s and maybe get to Josh Downs instead? Because Downs he's just above that. Yet Downs is $5,600 on FanDuel. Like, could you do that? Could you save a few $100s and get to Josh Downs instead? I think that's a potential direction to go to not leave a bunch of salary on the table. But your call there. Your call. Let's talk running backs. We've already had a discussion about Bijan Robinson and how he is projecting for all of the fantasy points, 27, so more than a full fantasy point ahead of Jonathan Taylor. If you've got the ability to spend up, Bijan Robinson clearly looks terrific for today. I want to know, though, now that Bijan has become such a highly projected player, Spags, is that impacting what you're doing with Jonathan Taylor and Christian McCaffrey? Because they're also pulling 33 and 17% ownership.
Yeah, I think the numbers have naturally come down a little bit for Jonathan Taylor, though I'm still with the field, basically. Got him 30% in the lineups I'm putting in. I'm rerunning a regular Stokastic 150. But yeah, it came down a little bit, but not so much. I think the value opening up a little bit more from Mooney, who's now in about a quarter of my lineups, is maybe getting me to more Jonathan Taylor. But I'm definitely getting some combos of Bijan plus Taylor, Bijan plus McCaffrey, because I have over 100% combined ownership between those three. Yeah, I don't know. I think that it's still not, I'm not fading these guys. So that's great. Like, I want to play a lot of Bijan, but in a perfect world, getting a Bijan and Taylor would be nice. I'm just sure that a lot of people are going to try to pull that off today.
Yeah, I mean, just based on the ownerships, it looks like the field. So one thing I thought when Bijan, we first saw his projection was, boy, maybe Jonathan Taylor is going to come down in ownership. But instead, it looks like people are just kind of jamming the two top-end running backs, because as far as ownership goes at the running back spot, look, 48% to Bijan, 33% to Taylor. Henry is still 21% owned, and then nobody else is above 20%. So it has definitely made the ownership a little bit more imbalanced in terms of what people are doing. So if I have the ability to spend up for Jonathan Taylor or Bijan Robinson, the option for me is going to be Bijan. But let's see, I've got everything updated for myself right now in the Sims. Yeah, I'm getting to a ton of Bijan's in more than half my lineups. He's in 2/3 of my lineup, so I'm still getting overweight to the field to him. And then I'm right around even with the field on Jonathan Taylor, with him showing up in 1/3 of my lineup. So it seems like it is doable to be getting both of them into the same lineups. If you're going down to the 6K range now, and we've got some good options in the 6K range. We've got Javonte Williams all the way down to Derrick Henry. So Derrick Henry's 21% owned. You got Rashad White, 18% owned. James Cook, 17% owned. Who's your favorite 6K running back, Spags? Which, once again, encompasses everybody from Javonte Williams all the way down to Derrick Henry. Yep, technically, Bucky Irving's in the price range as well, but it doesn't even matter that he's 6,900 when he isn't playing. So who's your favorite 6K running back do you think warrants the most exposure?
I mean, my favorite running back in that group is Bucky Irving, but like you said, he's not playing, so I'm sad because that's killing me in best ball right now, especially because he was right next to Jonathan Taylor, which is really compounding the pain. Derrick Henry, ownership-wise, though, is my most owned of that group. I'm not buying in on the Baltimore defense. I think the Vegas total kind of says it. I guess the content this week, I feel like the projection data is all kind of saying that the Ravens are going to be back to normal on defense, and then Derrick Henry is going to rise with that tide. I'm not really sold that that's going to be the case. Derrick Henry has looked so much worse than he did last year, and I'm somebody that didn't go heavy on Henry at the beginning of last year. That kind of was like, wow, he is playing so unbelievably well, missing tackles, being efficient every time he's getting the ball. This year, it's been the exact opposite. I just think the symptoms run a little bit deeper for Baltimore, and putting Tyler Huntley out there, I don't think fixes it. But projection-wise, Henry's too cheap, and the total does support, Baltimore dominating or having at least control of the game for the most part. So Derrick Henry's the guy, but frankly, Rachaad White, I'm not that far behind. Breece Hall, not that far behind him. Really, the only one I'm not getting at 6K is like Quinshon Judkins. He's just not a total non-factor for me this week.
Yeah, and Pat Gang Swish asked us, how do we feel about Derrick Henry? I don't have a strong take on Henry relative to the field. He's in 21% of my lineups now that I've got everything updated. So right in line with what the field is doing. My one take here is that I do slightly prefer Rachaad White. Great match for him against the Saints. Another thing, too, is the Buccaneers now, they're so banged up in the passing game. Do they have to lean a little bit more on Rachaad White running the football? Or also, do we just see flat out more targets in the passing game for Rachaad White? He's definitely a capable pass catcher. If you look at Rachaad White's target numbers so far this season, they've been on an uptick in recent weeks. Last week in what was a pass-friendly game script, which this week shouldn't be pass-friendly, but still, last week, pass-friendly game script, 6 targets. So the last 4 games now without Bucky Irving, 6 targets, 3 targets, 4 targets, 5 targets. Mike Evans back out of the mix for the Buccaneers. Like, are we just going to start to regularly see 4, 5, 6 targets for Rachaad White until Bucky Irving comes back? I think it's a possibility. I like the matchup as well against the Saints. So Derrick Henry, no issue with him at all. Like I said, I'm right in line with the field, but I have a little bit more exposure to Rachaad White, who's also lower owned. So Rachaad White is my preferred 6K option, Spags.
Yeah, honestly, I'm getting more Derrick Henry. I agree with you. I kind of like Rachaad White more as a play, but I just try to let the projections kind of do their work, and I think the projections do favor Derrick Henry, and that little bit of savings you get, I think a little bit more.
And then Jansen's wants to know, are there any late swap opportunities for today? Is there anything you really have in mind for a late swap angle, Spags? Honestly, the way I do NFL late swap is a lot different from NBA. It's kind of based on where my existing lineups are in the standings at the time. It's not so much where it's like, oh my God, this player got ruled out, and now there's all this value that's opened up. We had like one of those situations that was a really strong consideration this year. That was when Josh Jacobs was questionable, although he ended up playing, so Emmanuel Wilson didn't get the start. But is there anything in particular you're looking at that could be news related that leads to a good late swap opportunity?
No, I mean, I feel like if you're going into the late games and you had Jonathan Taylor in the flex and your line's feeling pretty chalky, maybe go into like a CeeDee Lamb kind of thing from that might be interesting, but like there's nothing injury wise I think we're waiting for. There are only 3 late games too, so there's not a lot of swappability there. And I don't think you're going to come in with a lot of ownership. I guess for Tampa Bay, New Orleans, to me, that's probably the game that'll give me the most flexibility relative to all 3 games. But yeah, I think really it's just mostly swapping off of Jonathan Taylor and knowing that if he's like your ace in the hole, that's going to be everybody's ace in the hole probably for that late slate.
Yeah, it's like you said, it's a 10-game slate and only 3 of them are on the late slate. So I don't think there's going to be a ton of late swap opportunities, but we'll see. There's a couple of super chats in here. One of them is from, it just says YouTube user. Did you actually get the YouTube handle YouTube user? There's no question attached to it though. Let me see. Yeah, it just says YouTube user. So YouTube user, who technically also all of you, kind of like my Christian Kirk thing before. Thank you, YouTube user, for the super chat, but there is no question attached. There's nothing I could answer there. Super chat from DP, I don't know how to pronounce this. DPLPBA wants to know, it is a 3v3, Bijan, Diggs, and Olave, or CMC, White, and Tet McMillan for a FanDuel GPP. Give me the first one, Bijan, Diggs, and Olave.
Yeah, I would go with the first one too. Not crazy about Diggs, but yeah, that's fine.
And then Garrett Towel wants to know favorite chalk and favorite low-owned QB on FanDuel. And don't forget to bring a towel. Spags, favorite chalk and favorite low-owned QB on FanDuel. Let's see. What is the
I think the Jonathan Taylor carries you a little bit further as chalk than Bijan.
Latest ownership
on
looking
FanDuel.
like over on FanDuel.
Yeah, Jonathan Taylor at 38%, I think would be my favorite chalk.
We said QB though.
Oh, well, you said favorite chalk. I thought he just meant in general and low in QB. Yeah, then you go first then, because I was looking at running back.
Yeah. Yeah. So here's what's tough about favorite chalk quarterback. The quarterback position is so spread out. The answer for me is Bo Nix at 13% ownership, but it's like, who else are we considering chalk? Like, are we considering Spencer Rattler at 7% on chalk over on FanDuel? There's just not that many options. So chalk, the answer to me is Bo Nix. Contrarian to me is going to be Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, chalk for me would be Daniel Jones, because I think you can maybe hit that with Taylor or in lieu of Taylor. I think that gives you some flexibility on FanDuel. And low owned, Fields or Kirk Cousins.
Let's see, what do we have for ownership? Fields is 4% owned, and the latest update on Cousins also has him at 4%. So comparable ownership on the two of them on the FanDuel side of things. All right, let me make sure that there weren't any other questions. No, nothing for now. So let's go back to talking about running back. To me, this is going to be a pretty quick conversation, Spags, on the value side of running backs. There's so many good spend up options and mid-range plays at running back. I don't know about you, but there isn't anybody that I'm looking at as a cheap running back that I'm really looking to get exposure to today.
Yeah, I think Chase Brown at 5,400 is the closest you get. Got him 11% in Stokastic's top 150 lineups here with a 25% to first. So I like Chase Brown. I think game theory wise, we're going to see a good amount of ownership going to Jamar Chase. If the Jets do fail, Chase Brown has a pretty good shot of hitting, and I think he's looking better with Flacco in there. It just seems like the entire offense is being able to keep defense a little bit more honest. And I think Chase Brown, the Jets defense, despite what Woody Johnson says, the defense is actually awful defending the run and the pass. And I think Chase Brown has a better shot of hitting this week than people will realize.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I just didn't quite have room for him in my lineups with how I'm prioritizing the spend up guys. So earlier in the week, Loughy and I were doing the Wednesday single lineup sim show. And that was one of the first things we said is, hey, Chase Brown, $5,400. He looks potentially really solid this week. But now push comes to shove and I'm building my lineups. I only finished with 6% of Chase Brown because I've got Rashad White, I've got Derrick Henry, and then, obviously the spend up guys like Bijan and Jonathan Taylor. I just don't quite have enough money for him. That's one of the things that happens with a lot of NFL slates relative to other DFS sports. The slates are so large that there's going to be a lot of players you like that you can't quite get to. If Chase Brown has a big game, I'm certainly going to regret it because he's somebody who throughout the week I have said I like Chase Brown, but I don't want to just push Chase Brown into more lineups because I don't like the opportunity cost of losing out on some other guys that I like on the slate. So Chase Brown is just kind of a victim of the other options that have opened up at running back. And if anybody plays him, I don't hate it at all. I just couldn't quite get there for myself, but I get it. $5,400. He had a great game last week. The offense looks way more competent with Joe Flacco behind center as opposed to what it looked like with Jake Browning. I just couldn't quite get to him. Question here from Michael J. Michael wants to know DK cash game quarterback Nix or Huntley. I think either of them are viable cash options. I'm going to lean towards Nix just because he's the higher projected owned of the two. But if you look at our quarterback ownerships on DraftKings now, we've got Nix at 14.5%. And then we've got, where is Huntley? I thought Huntley was... oh, no, never mind. Huntley, I don't know why I thought he came up a little bit more in ownership. But either way, yeah, I'm going to go with Bo Nix over Huntley just because of the gap in the projected ownership. I think that's the most reasonable way to be the tiebreaker if you don't know who to go with in cash. Just go with the higher projected owned player.
I tend to go for the best value QB as my cash guy, as long as they're not too gross. So I actually went Huntley for my some of the weekly cash stuff I do, because it does allow you to afford Taylor, Bijan, and Jamar Chase, which I think is going to be your chalk trio of the week. So I like Huntley, but I think your take about Nix, those are probably your two best options. Choose one.
All right, let's move on to wide receiver talk now. And at the wide receiver position, you guys can see we've now got north of 30% projected ownership to both Jamar Chase and Devonta Smith. Obviously, Devonta Smith benefiting greatly this week from the absence of A.J. Brown. And then you've also got Jamar Chase, who is He's just Jamar Chase. He's really fucking good at football. And then you've got Darnell Mooney now 25% owned now that we've got no Drake London in the picture for the Falcons. Nobody else is really all that popular wide receiver. Sure, there's 18% ownership to Egbuka. That's actually come down a little bit because of more people playing Bijan. Olave 17% owned, but that's it. We've only got 5 wide receivers more than 12% owned, Spags. So that creates pretty spread out ownership outside of the top few guys. What are you doing with the chalk at wide receiver? Do you love these chalk options? Do you hate any of them? Is there anybody you're massively over or underweight to? The chalk, once again, Jamar Chase, Devonta Smith, Darnell Mooney. We'll call these 3 guys the chalk at the position. Anything you're wildly different from the field on than these 3?
I'm getting more of than expected of Jamar Chase, which I'm pretty cool with. I think it's been pretty clear from Joe Flacco that, I mean, he said it literally in exact quotes that whatever Jamar Chase wants, he's going to give him. He knows what the assignment is to feed Jamar Chase. We now have Chase, meaningfully ahead of T. Higgins in terms of targets, where Chase is over 10 a game. T. Higgins closer to 6.5. That's a pretty big gap between Chase and Higgins when it was much more even split last year. So Chase, to me, as long as the Jets can stay in range of this game, and that maybe is more of a risk to some people out there. So I would say keep that in mind. I think Jamar Chase is the strongest play of the week. So I got him at 53%, Fields at 34%. I'm cool with that. Devontae Smith, I'm above on as well. Got 40% plus of him. He's at 31%. He's put up 17 PPR points and change in games without AJ Brown that they've shared together, or that, since they've been on the team together. Dallas Goedert also takes a jump up meaningfully. It's not the biggest sample size, but the projection looks great. The results are actually there in game. So I think he is also good chalk. And Mooney, not really as big of a stand. Now that the data's kind of leveled out, got him at 20%. Fields at 23. So I think for Mooney, I'm cool with the play. I do wonder about Kirk Cousins' ability to get the ball downfield. That was what we saw him really lose the starting job about last year, was that he couldn't hang in the pocket and get the throws out. He was kind of checking down too much. A year of getting healthy maybe makes that better for him. But I think Mooney, to me, out of the big 3 at least, he's the one I can move away from, because you don't need the value, even though the value is not bad for him.
Super chat here from JR. He says, other than Christian Kirk Cousins, there we go. Who is our favorite QB on DK under 50? Easily Tyler Huntley. If it can't be Kirk Cousins and you're looking to save salary somebody else, it's easily Huntley.
Justin Fields, but yeah. Justin Fields, but take the other plays, please. Don't die on Justin Fields. Hill with me. Loughy and I could be alone there. We could be holding hands with Justin Fields as we go put on our Nikes and drink Kool-Aid. But yeah, no, Justin Fields.
I've got a couple of Fields lineups, but I have a lot more of Tyler Huntley. So it is Huntley as the answer for myself. By the way, at wide receiver, I'm looking through my exposures here. I have a ton of Darnell Mooney. Darnell Mooney's my most rostered wide receiver. So that is a big stand that I'm making at wide receiver. He's in more than half my lineups. I love the value on him at $4,400. He really enables me to spend up for some of the expensive running backs as well, with his price point only being $4,400. Are there any contrarian wide receivers that you're really eyeing for this slate?
Jerry Jeudy came up a little bit more than I would have thought, and I don't mind that. I'm actually one of the guys in my Discord. He's a very good DFS player, this guy, Nolan. He was talking about Dylan Gabriel stacks this week. Not Nolan Kelly, though, who's also a great DFS player. But basically for Jerry Jeudy, I think he's a guy going against New England. People just don't know yet, and it hasn't shown its face in every game. New England's secondary is not good, and it's been like a Vrabel staple for every team he's had, where they stuff the run, like going back to Tennessee. That was always the case every year. But then downfield, they struggle. Overall, the secondary just struggles a little bit more in terms of giving up production and in particular efficiency. And, Jerry Jeudy's getting 7 targets a game, a little bit more than that, I think. Just make sure I got that number right. But he's getting 7.4 targets a game, currently only catching 3.1. You're going against a team with a high catchable ball rate that is also inefficient defensively. It could be a spot for Jeudy to get going. I would have liked for Njoku to be out to kind of clear the runway even more. But yeah, getting Jeudy here in the sim, I'm not mad at as a play, because nobody wants to play Jerry Jeudy at this point.
Well, let's see. Who do I have as a top contrarian wide receiver? So a couple of spots that stand out to me. One of them is T. Higgins, who I think serves as a really good leverage option off of Jamar Chase. So Jamar Chase at $8,100. He is, as you guys can see here, the most popular wide receiver on the slate, 35% owned. T. Higgins, who earlier in the week, T. Higgins was, I think he was like 13 or 14% owned. So he was never like super popular, but he's come down quite a good amount over the course of the week. I think Mooney opening up also has influenced that a little bit over the course of today. But T. Higgins is really good, Spags. And there is certainly a scenario where T. Higgins just scores touchdowns or has a comparable fantasy game to Jamar Chase. And I think you're getting a lot of leverage here. If you go to T. Higgins in the lineup instead of Jamar Chase, you're saving yourself $2,500 in salary. You're also getting a guy who's a really good wide receiver that has a fourth of the ownership. So T. Higgins, I think that's a pretty good point of leverage for today. And earlier in the week, that was one of the other reasons I like Chase Brown, is because I thought that he served as a good leverage point off of Jamar Chase. But now, just considering what the value looks like at the running back position, I'm kind of liking to get to T. Higgins as a leverage play.
Yeah, I think T. Higgins, look, he's not the same player or the same play as he was last year, where he and Jamar Chase's role was basically 1-to-1. It was just that Jamar Chase broke a lot more big plays and, certainly had more touchdown equity. This year, it's actually 11.4 targets a game for Jamar Chase compared to 6.6 for T. Higgins. That's a pretty decent chasm between the two. The red zone work, 1.3 a game for Chase, only 1 a game for Higgins. I agree with what we're saying DFS wise, and the price tag is now cheap enough for Higgins that you're getting him relatively affordable if you're going to go with the longer term sample size, especially. But it just seems like the team has kind of decided that like it's now a real number 1 and number 2. And I think that stands out in the data. But game theory wise, I think you're as sharp as always.
Yeah. So T. Higgins for me as a leverage wide receiver on the slate. Is there anything else that you are prioritizing as far as a low owned wide receiver goes, or maybe just a value option that we haven't really discussed much yet?
I did make sure to get some of the secondary Texans. People really hype in Jalen Noel. And frankly, I think Jalen Noel projected for 5% ownership in Stokastic data. My gut is he's going to be closer to 10%. I think people saw the game last week. It was a little bit fluky. And you could sort of determine this how you want, but multiple, I think it was like 3 20-yard catches and 1 short throw. You're not going to usually have like 3 20-yard plays in a game for Noel, and the opportunity's there for him to do more for sure. But I think Jaden Higgins is the exact same play. Xavier Hutchinson, who's nothing special, was a lot better in college. He's been as a pro. He's another guy where I think he's kind of a similar play to Noel, but people are going to treat Noel like he's a special play. I think getting to 5 to 10% of those 3 guys, whether it's with Schultz, whether it's in lieu of Schultz, I think is a pretty good move, just given the ownership that the Houston stack has right now.
Yeah, so for me with Noel, I've got 9% of him, so he's showing up in some lineups, nothing all that crazy. We just got a question from Win in was it Win? No, it was Michael J. He wants to know, is Noel okay in cash? If you're looking to punt that cheap, I like him more than the other guys. Certainly not like a must play in cash game, but yeah, okay. I'm not going to tell you have to take him out of a cash game lineup or anything like that. There's extra opportunity considering how banged up that the Texans are as far as pass catchers go, and he's cheap. So at 3,500, yeah, go ahead and play him in a cash game. And then he wants to know, is it crazy to not play Mooney? Yes, it is crazy to not play Mooney in a cash game. I think you have to have Mooney in cash.
I think it's crazy to not play Schultz in that lineup too, and I don't know that I want to play Noel and Schultz in cash. So I personally would be a little bit less inclined for Noel in cash because you should have Schultz in there as like your tight end no matter what.
Yeah, fair enough. I think that makes a little bit of sense too. Schultz, considering the tight end ownership where he's 24% owned, he's probably going to be 40-50% owned in cash games. I absolutely think you should be playing in Schultz in cash, but that is a lot of exposure to what's been a not great Texans passing game because of how bad the offensive line has been this year. So you do run some risk of, what if the offensive line protection breaks down? CJ Stroud just has one of these games where only throws for 170 yards, and all of a sudden you got a bunch of exposure to the Texans offense. So maybe not ideal. I'll see it a little bit more Spags way with Noel and Schultz in the same lineup. But with that said, absolutely have to play Mooney in cash games today. Have to.
Yeah, I think so.
Win wants to know best way to stack Atlanta, 4-man or 3-man, and should the DST be included? I think the best way to stack Atlanta is Kirk Cousins with Darnell Mooney and Kyle Pitts. Is it viable to play Bijan? Yes, it is viable. That's just not my favorite Atlanta stack. My favorite Atlanta stack is the Cousins 2-man with Mooney and Pitts. How about yourself for your favorite Atlanta stack?
I like the idea of a 3-man and trying to bring back Waddle or Achane. I just didn't really get so much of the Achane side, which I'm sure means he'll go bananas. But I think the triple can hit, and I think it's more likely to hit if you are going to have a bring back with it. I think that game environment could be better than people realize. And I think people are really down on the Dolphins right now, and they should be because Tua keeps putting his foot in his mouth. but like they have a really clean kind of usage tree. And, Waddle, I think, he's showing me that he's got the upside without Tyreek Hill so far.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the Tua excuses either, where he's like, listen, guys, I know that I didn't play well last week, and I know I wasn't able to target Jalen Waddle, but I'm short. What am I supposed to do about it? I can't see over the offensive lineman. That would be like if I came on here, like I'm doing my bankroll thread over on Tails, which you guys could follow for free. Just go to tails.bet, download the Tails app, follow me, follow all the other guys while you're there as well. And I'm doing the bankroll build content that I did last year, where I start with $100. And last year I got up to nearly 1,500. We're going to see how high I could do it. But it would be like if I was, 3 weeks into the season, the $100 was down to $25. I go, well, listen, guys, in my defense, I'm just not very good at this. Like that's more or less what Tua was saying. He's like, I'm physically limited in a way where I can't play quarterback very well. What do you want me to do? Jalen Waddle isn't going to get targets sometimes. So I didn't think that was the best excuse that Tua made, because what he was kind of making a case almost that he shouldn't be playing a quarterback. He's a regular starter in the league.
Well, I mean, the thing is, at least he blamed himself this time, as opposed to just going like, guys aren't showing up to meetings. So yeah, progress isn't always linear, but maybe it's still progress.
Jeff Williams, any Barkley love today on DraftKings? I thought earlier in the week I was going to like Barkley a little bit as a potential leverage option off of Devonta Smith, just because of the idea of, if A.J. Brown wasn't going to play, Devonta Smith was going to be popular. I thought Goddard was going to be a little bit more popular early in the week, but just other value ended up opening up, like, Nico Collins being out, and now Dalton Schultz is really popular as well. So I thought that Barkley was going to be somebody who made sense as a leverage option, but what ended up happening, Barkley ended up being more popular than I thought he was going to be. He's still 15% owned. I've got a couple lineups with him, but I certainly wouldn't say I love Barkley. And Jeff, since I know that you play a lot of like higher dollar single entry contests or higher dollar, like 3 max sort of stuff, Barkley would not be a priority for me in those contests at all.
I like Barkley a little bit just because it's a really soft matchup. Giants giving up 0.1 EPA per rush, which is one of the worst marks in the league. Again, I would have thought this on Thursday Night Football a couple weeks ago, and instead they got their ass kicked, and Cam Scatterbo ran for 3 touchdowns. But I think at a certain point, it's like we got the passing game right for Philly last week. I think they're one of those teams that are constantly chasing, how do we keep everybody happy? And it wouldn't shock me, like the narrative has gotten real bad on Saquon. Even Pro Football Talk had an article like calling him out for being the 31 out of like 33 running backs. And like the narrative's gotten bad enough that the Eagles might have the antennas up a little bit and feed him in a matchup that could be good. But frankly, Saquon's the one who suffered the most out of getting more Bijan, it looks like, in my ownership, where then you could afford to get to Bijan now. I'm getting less Saquon. And I do think when you have so much ownership, you'll go in the way of Goddard and Devontae Smith. Going to the RB could be logical.
Yeah. And I mean, the key for me is still 16% owned. It would be one thing if he was projected for 5 or 6% ownership, that'd be one thing. It kind of seems like the field is getting there to an extent that it's actually more than I want. I thought he was going to be contrarian. That's just not the case. So not for me really today. Next question. Big Sus 420. Our friend Big Sus, also saw him on the NBA show last night. Big Sus wants to know best flex entry for $5,200 or less. So presumably he has built out a lineup. He's got $5,200 left in the flex spot. Who'd you recommend? It could be anybody for $5,200 or less.
Let's see. I'm looking now. I really not getting anybody at this price range a ton. That's like right next to it. The most I've got is Shaheed at 4,700, Mooney at 44, Kittle at 45. But yeah, nobody at 5,200 at all besides QBs.
Yeah, I'm just kind of looking through our projections here and seeing who projects the best, because I was looking at my Sims exposure, and I either have guys who are more expensive than that or cheaper than that, but not really that many at that price range. So I could see Big Sus 420, the predicament that you're running in, trying to fill out that last spot in your lineup. Because if you look at our projections, who's the highest at 52? It is going to be,
still
Goddard,
Mooney, I think.
42.
Well, because Mooney's got 12.5 on a projection, and then you have like Wandale at 11.2, Shakir at 11.7, Keon Coleman at 10.1. So I think you would still get Mooney or Kittle more than the guys who are actually that price tag. I don't hate Wandale price tag wise. I just didn't get him in the sim. What
I think you should probably do, without knowing what your lineup is, could you just could you go to like Mooney or make it a double tight end lineup and throw like Goddard in there or something, and then maybe do something like spend the extra $1,000 on defense or something like that, or maybe just upgrade another position? Like, that's what I think you should do, Big Sus. But I don't know the entirety of your lineup, but I do think you were best off not playing somebody right at $5,200. I think you either want to go a little bit cheaper and then spend up, or let's see if you could put a few $100s extra together. Maybe you could downgrade defense. Then you could slide T. Higgins in there at $5,600. That's something that I would be a proponent of. So either spend down at defense, give yourself a few $100 extra to go up to a T. Higgins, or go cheaper and upgrade your defense to one of your other positions. But I wouldn't play somebody directly at 5,200. Let's see. We've got JT Mack, favorite plays in the 1-1-1-1 main event. So, yeah, let's go overall our favorite plays at each position now that the dust is starting to settle a little bit, Spags. I know I've got my lineups uploaded. Hopefully, you've got your lineups uploaded. Hopefully for the audience, you guys either have your lineups uploaded or close to uploaded, because we're at lock in 10 minutes. And like the video, subscribe to the channel if you aren't already. And also, if you're looking for more content after this ends, head on over to, like I said before, tails.bet. I'm still going to be posting NBA bets throughout the day. And then Josh, Loughy, they're also posting DFS content and bets and all that. Eric, Ben, same for them. So download the Tails app. Check out Tails. It is totally free to get lots of good content and bets over on Tails. But quarterback position. Let's go position by position with final exposures here. If we're playing a high dollar lineup that we're maybe just throwing one lineup in, you can play one quarterback. Who are you picking?
I mean, it's a pretty big entry fee. It's tough because it's still a 150 max, so I think it would still be like the same for me, but I would be a little bit less glib about playing Justin Fields at $1,100 an entry. I'd probably consider Flacco more, I think. Daniel Jones, I think I'd probably take a longer look at for that high of an entry fee.
Yeah, the three quarterbacks I would be considering are Bo Nix, Tyler Huntley, and Kirk Cousins. As scary as it is, I think in that kind of buy-in, the same build I talked about before, Bijan could be like 60-70% owned in that contest. Kirk Cousins, Mooney, and Pitt stack, I'd be pretty inclined to want to roll that out and get leverage over the field. At running back, what are you liking at running back?
Running back, I mean, just say Bijan, because I think it's Bijan. If not Bijan, it's JT. I would play close to the cloth on the RBs and again that high of an entry fee.
Yeah, Bijan's certainly a strong option. Obviously, if you're doing the Cousins double stack to try to get leverage off of Bijan, that kind of lessens the appeal of that. I do think it's interesting that you can get Jonathan Taylor Taylor's 30% on compared to 50% on Bijan. So you're getting some ownership savings there. And then I'll go Rachaad White in the mid-range as well. If you weren't paying up for running back in a high dollar contest, who would be the cheaper option you go to?
Cheaper option, Rachaad White, I think would be the one. I don't think I'd want to play Derrick Henry in that tournament personally. Chase Brown, if you really wanted to save the money and take the shot. Get unique there.
Wide receiver, I do prefer the spend up running backs over Jamar Chase as a spend up wide receiver. Just a personal preference for me, not necessarily an issue with Jamar Chase, but just kind of how my lineups are looking. I still have Chase, certainly a good chunk of him in lineups, actually even a little bit overweight to the field to him. I still don't have as much of him as I have of Bijan Robinson and Jonathan Taylor. So with that in mind, just building one lineup, it's kind of hard to say pay up for all of the guys. So I do like the other two chalk options in Mooney and Smith quite a good amount. And then T. Higgins as a potential leverage option off of Jamar Chase, which I brought up before. I've got 15% of T. Higgins, so I'm about 2x the field. For yourself at wide receiver?
It would be Jamar Chase if you can make that work. Devontae Smith, I agree. For, again, a high dollar entry, I would feel okay about him being part of the foundation. Mooney too, I think probably a little more inclined to just get whatever he puts up there because I think that would work well too. So Mooney, Devontae Smith, Jamar Chase. It's still a chalk three. I unfortunately just don't feel that differently about the entry other than liking Justin Fields less because of that much money being involved.
Tight end is where I'm most inclined to just eat the chalk with Dalton Schultz. So like I said before, Kyle Pitts also I like a good amount at tight end, but Dalton Schultz is by a pretty good wide margin the best tight end play on the slate.
Yeah, that's agreed there.
All right, let's see what else we've got for questions heading into lock. Jeff Williams, Nix, and Barkley or Huntley and CMC. Boy, it really depends who else is in that lineup, but I'm inclined to say Nix and Barkley.
I would also go Nix and Barkley.
And then A Wright wants to know, Connor at $2,600, is that playable or getting cute? Sure, it's playable, but I have 0 lineups with him, so a little bit more on the cute end. The issue is Kyle Pitts is $3,900. K. Otton's $3,400. Oh, George Kittle is $4,500. Schultz $3,300. Goddard is $4,200. You got so many reasonable options who are cheap at tight end that I don't know that the $2,600 is enough salary savings to really justify. You're getting yourself $700 in salary savings over Dalton Schultz.
Yeah, I would just honestly just play Dalton Schultz. I know people want to get unique, but there is things that's too much uniqueness, and I would say Connor would be that.
And getting back into Discord, Stinky Thumbs Arbuckle. He's got a proposition for me, Spags. He says, if I win the Millie, I'll fly out and show you how I got my nickname. Oh boy, is that a promise or a threat?
Somebody was saying in the chat that apparently that's an old Adam Sandler bit. So apparently we might have given him too much credit, and he might just be lifting from what would now be a boomer Adam Sandler reference.
Well, there we go. Stinky Thumbs Arbuckle says that he's going to, if he wins the Millie Maker, fly out and show you how I got my nickname. Sounds like I might be getting a new nickname in a high-pitched Greg, to borrow from the Howard Stern show. JEW, is this too chalky for DraftKings single entry? Kirk is already somewhat contrarian. Achane, Bijan Robinson, Mooney, Chase, Smith, Pitts, Schultz, Colts defense. It's very chalky, but I don't know so the individual players outside of Cousins are really chalky. I don't know how many people in single entry are going to be going with Kirk, Bijan Robinson, Mooney, and Pitts in the same lineup. So I don't have an issue with that build. To you, Spags, I'll read it off to you again. Cousins, Achane, Bijan Robinson, Mooney, Chase, Smith, Pitts, Schultz, Colts defense.
Yeah, I think the Achane part alone is going to make you unique. I think if anybody plays that Atlanta mega stack, they're going to probably put Waddle on that as the logical bring back. And Achane projects overall for 15% owned. Single entry, I think he might be 5. So I think that lineup actually is pretty good. Shot maybe if there being 1 dupe or 1 to 5 dupes, I guess, depending how big the field is. But I think it's relatively unique.
And I am just double checking to make sure there's no super chats that we missed, but it looks like we've got all of them and nobody in chat is complaining that we missed any. So I think we're good on that end. Final Discord questions here. Looks like we've got to all of them for now. So the one thing I did not ask you about, although we have talked about tight ends pretty extensively throughout the show here, Spags, are there any contrarian tight ends you're really liking for today? Because this is the position I'm the chalkiest at.
I think, yeah, it's definitely the position I'm chalkiest at. Mason Taylor, because of the amount of fields I got, I'll be above the field on him. Colston Loveland, conceptually, I get. I'm just not a believer in Baltimore's defense fixing everything this week. And Kmet being unavailable is going to be something that opens up Loveland more than he probably deserves at this point with how he's played, but that's opportunity there. But I think really Mason Taylor would be the one that I took a little bit of a stand there. It's just, you get so much Schultz, so much Pitts, so much Goddard. Those guys are like the lead 3 by a wide margin for me.
Yeah, the one, I know he's not like crazy contrarian, but George Kittle is underpriced at $4,500. And, some of these games, Kittle doesn't really operate as a pass catcher that much. Like last week, he had a lot of value as well, but a lot more utilization as a run blocker than a pass catcher. But keep in mind, week 1 of the season, prior to Kittle getting hurt, he had, what was it, Spags, like 4 catches for 54 yards and a touchdown or something like that in the first half prior to leaving with an injury. He is still one of the best pass catching tight ends in the NFL. So there's a part of me that just looks at George Kittle as like, boy, am I going to be regretful if he has a big game at $4,500. He's like $5,500 for the next game. And then we'll look back and be like, oh yeah, duh, George Kittle should have been more expensive than that. So I am slightly over the field on George Kittle, but I'm considering doing like 1 ROI boost last minute to get to more of Kittle. Was he somebody you landed on at all?
I'm with the field on Kittle overall. Look, he is the godfather of National Tight Ends Day. So I mean, like if you're gonna play into that narrative for anybody, I think Kittle's probably the one. The one thing that would concern me is that like they kind of have brought him in to fix the run game, and it's largely been the way that he's used so far in his limited amount of time since getting back from injury. But they could put something on film where it's like you see him, kind of running well or helping the team run better, and then they could use that to set up play action. It's possible. Just Mac Jones locks onto guys a little bit less or a little bit more rather than Purdy does. And Purdy kind of locks onto Kittle substantially more. So that would worry me, but National Tight Ends Day, play Kittle.
By the way, one more time, if you guys haven't done it, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel for more content, head on over to Tails. And if you guys have been enjoying the Tails app, it would be very much appreciated if you guys could leave us a 5-star review and maybe write 1 to 2 nice sentences about the app as well if you're enjoying the experience, because that helps us out a whole bunch, helps us grow the app. But also, as we grow the app more, things like reviews, downloading the app, that is going to give us more ammo to be able to add more features to the app to make it a better experience for yourself. So if you guys have been enjoying it, leave us a nice review. It goes a long way. It does a lot more good than you guys probably even realize. I want to know also here, Spags, any final thoughts on the slate? We got about 30 seconds to go until lock.
No, I mean, I did get a little bit less fields on the home stretch, but I'm still playing him more than I should. So that's really the main thing for me. I think it's an interesting slate because it does feel like the chalk is, and there's been a lot of good chalk this year. And I think it's part of the evolution of DFS. It feels like it's really good chalk this week. So if the chalk bombs, I'm boned. I'm sure a lot of you guys out there are boned. So really, in a week with no Eric Lindquist, we have celebrated by playing chalk at every position at way too much volume.
Sometimes the chalk just makes sense. Like there was some guys like Saquon, for instance, who was projected for 16% ownership. I was like, all right, that looks a little bit high. But for some of these other guys, like what we're gonna pretend that Bijan isn't a really good option, or wide receiver like Darnell Mooney in the absence of Drake London, or at tight end, Nico Collins gets ruled out, Christian Kirk is banged up, at Dalton Schultz at 3,300. Like the chalk just makes sense some slates, and this week is one of them. So Spags and I, we're going to be chalk donkeys. I'll throw this out into the ether. There hasn't been a chalk injury yet. That's definitely one way we can get screwed. That hasn't happened yet this year. So we'll see what ends up playing out for today. But hopefully the chalk hits for myself, for Spags, and hopefully for some of you guys if you're on the same options as us. But other than that, guys, have a great day. I'm going to be on Showdown Live before lock with Travis Mangone tonight, which I'm looking forward to. That's going to be his first time doing shows with us over here on the platform. And other than that, have a great end of your weekend, guys. Good luck with all your lineups. I'll see you later tonight. Peace.